Talk about it with Franjez. Today's special guest is an actress best known for her role as Gabi Hernandez on the long-running Emmy Award-winning soap opera Days of Our Lives. Today's guest is Cherie Jimenez.
Hi,
Welcome.
hello.
Thank you for
Hi.
coming by.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's exciting.
Yeah. I'm excited for this one.
Like I said, this is my first in person, so
Yeah. Zoom is not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not. But this is nice.
This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's start straight from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Manhattan, New York, so I am a New York City girl, always and forever. My mom and I and my Abuela, we moved around a lot. So we lived in Bronx, Brooklyn, Lower East Side, and Washington Heights. But Washington Heights, I think, is where I spent most of my life. As far as living in the city, just because my mom had me young. So she had me when she was 18. And my dad wasn't necessarily around. So it was just my abuela and my mom. And we kind of just went from here to there to here to there. We did have our own place for a little bit. And then we left that place. And then we spent probably from the age of 5 to 9 just moving around everywhere. So we didn't necessarily have anywhere to live, like a home base, but we always had family members or friends that would kind of let us stay over. So I always remember I didn't have much when I was little, but I had this little backpack and I always had like a couple of pairs of jeans and a couple of t-shirts and then maybe like a toy or two. And then it would just be like, okay, we're going to go stay here for a week. We're going to go stay here for a month. So it was just kind of like a little nomadic lifestyle that we had.
That's wild.
And then
the moving around the boroughs, that was before 5? That was within 1 or 5?
No. So before that, I think we had a place somewhere in Washington Heights that we stayed. And then for just kind of life reasons, my mom had to take me and we had to just kind of go. Yeah. And so because of that, it put us in a situation where I wouldn't say we're homeless. It's an interesting thing because obviously homeless comes into different factors of what that means. But we definitely didn't have anywhere to live, like an actual place. So I was just used to going from place to place to place. And like I said, it was family members, like my cousins lived in Washington Heights. So no matter what, I always spent summers with them. And it was my abuela's sister who lived in Washington Heights.
Nice.
So we would stay there. And I mean, honestly, like despite our situation of how it just kind of was for us, because now looking back, it was kind of crazy. Like my mom sacrificed a lot and went through a lot that I didn't realize that she was going through because no matter what, I still had a childhood. And also growing up in the city is an interesting thing because there's so much to do. So like you go to Central Park.
Yeah.
You go to Bryant Park. We would do in the summers because, we didn't have much money and my mom was a single mom working. We would go see free movies in the summer in Bryant Park. So that was like our thing. And then we'd go to like this little diner near the Lower East Side and we'd kind of just had like share a meal and just kind of talk about things and no matter what. And then Abuela would take me to like Canarsie or like, the dollar store and we just kind of get little things or give me like 50 cents and I would get candy. I was obsessed with candy. So I always had like all the candy, but it was great. Like New York City for me has always just been such a special place. So I feel like I got really lucky despite our situation. And it wasn't until I got older that I really got to kind of, in hindsight, really look at the whole thing and be like, oh my God, wow, like we were struggling, but my mom never put us in a situation where I realized the struggle that we were going through. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You really got to see a lot, New York City.
Yeah, New York City. I mean, it's the best place in the world. And don't get me wrong, like I live in Los Angeles and I love the life that I have in Los Angeles. I'm very grateful because for me, the independence of being there, I moved there when I was maybe 19, I think I had just turned, and I moved alone. So for me, that was just, and my mom was incredibly supportive. She was like, okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And they helped me out. Which was a blessing for me until I was 22.
All right, let's slow it down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay,
I want to get into all of it.
Yeah, you go. Exactly.
So the childhood. Let's talk about Let's talk about 1 to 10. What kind of kid are you? And what is the candy and what's the toy in your bag?
Yeah. Okay. What kind of
Your
kid
candy
am
of
I?
choice, yeah.
I think the kind of kid that I was, I mean, I was a good kid. I started to rebel when I got older. So I was a good kid. I think I just had it really good. No matter what, I had so much love. I was surrounded by so much love. So I just remember being happy. I mean, I think that having the strong values of my mom and my abuela being there for me was just such a beautiful thing that I was never without love as far as that's concerned. So I was pretty happy. I mean, I think that my relationship with my father not being there, as much as I was aware, I also was not aware because my life was so full with my other family members. You know, I had my cousins, so like I played with them all the time. I was an only child. So for me, it wasn't like I was missing having a sibling or anything like that. It was just like my cousins were basically that for me.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I think I was a pretty good kid. I do remember going to like confession because I grew up Catholic, and anytime that I would go in, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't know. I think I was like a little bit of a bitch.
In
I
church?
do remember, yeah, like because I remember going in. Well, not in church, but I remember. As odd as it sounds, that being like, okay, so is there anything you want to confess? And it was always just me being like, well, I was mean to my abuela, or like I talked back to my mom. So I think I did have those like little things, you know, like I would go in and be like, I'm so sorry. And, you know, say my like whatever they gave me to go pray. And then like I'd come back and, you know, but it's I definitely have always, I think, spoken up for myself, you know, and spoken up for others. So I am aware that I wasn't necessarily a quiet kid and just standing back and letting things happen. I would always speak up. Like I was like, are you really going to do that? Like I would call people out, I guess, kind of thing. But I was also very kind and a really good kid. And I listened because, you know, I think I had just had so much love that I didn't feel any
You were
reason
raised
to rebel.
right to
Yeah, like I was just raised with a lot of love. And yeah, I mean,
What were you into? Like TV,
yeah,
comics,
so,
books?
well, what's funny, I mean, I grew up on Spanish TV, so Spanish is my first language, and then English, I guess, came later on at some point, you know. But I loved my Sailor Moon. I would wake up every single morning at 5:30 in the morning, so I loved my little anime, my Sailor Moon. Tales from the Crypt was my like night thing. So I guess I would watch like my little shows, and then I would watch Sábado Gigante with my abuela
Oh, yeah.
every Saturday. So that was like my big thing. And then the telenovelas, which is so funny. I would sneak into, which is so funny that I'm on one now, but I would sneak into my abuela's sister's room and I would watch this telenovela called Dos Mujeres Un Camino that I was obsessed with. And I wasn't supposed to be, honestly, I had no business watching this, but it was her show. So I would go in there. She'd be like, you want to come on in? And then I'd go in there. She'd have like little snacks for me.
Nice.
And like we'd watch a show and then I'd like dip out before anybody knew.
Wasn't too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It is like adult conversations and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But like when you grow
nothing
up,
graphic.
No, nothing. Exactly. At the end of the day, a soap can only go so far. Nothing like what they have these days. And then my cousins were my best friends, you know, we'd play. I think that really just a lot of what I experienced sheltered me from the reality of what was going on. So like I said, you know, like obviously we'll talk about me being older and understanding the certain things that I was experiencing or that my mom was experiencing. She experienced a lot and really made sure that I didn't know what she was going through. So I think the struggle of just surviving, of being a young mom, and we were best friends. And that too, we were best friends. So she to me, I mean, of course she was always mom, but we had like a best friend relationship.
Nice.
So for me, that was just like a beautiful thing. And then, you know, I went to school in the city, but really I'd say at a certain point, everything just kind of shifted because we would go from place to place to place, and then we had like a place to live here, blah, 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 all these, just all this moving. And then we had a friend that I went to school with who lived in the Lower East Side, in Alphabet City. And we lived with her for about 9 months, and that was right before we moved to Brooklyn and we got our own place. So Brooklyn was our first place that we actually got where like I had a bedroom.
Nice.
And I remember just being like, oh my God, I have a bed and a bedroom. You know, like
what age is
like
this?
That's it.
Or what?
I want to say
what
that
school
was
year?
around 9.
Okay, 9.
9, yeah. So that was when I got into acting and modeling.
No way, at
Yeah,
9.
so that kind of, so between my mom working at this law firm and me getting into acting and modeling, that basically gave us a situation we were able to save enough money and get a place of our own. So that was like a really
Nice.
beautiful thing. And again, like I was just little, I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, I want, like you said with candy, Abuela would always give me like 50 cents, and I would go to the bodega and I would just get candy. That was like my thing. I'd do like warheads, sour powers, gummy
Crybabies.
bears, yeah, just like any little thing that was like, I'd be like, okay, well, that's 5 cents.
Yeah.
So I want that one, and that's 25 cents. Do I want that one?
Yeah,
Like it'd be
that's
like,
half my whole budget.
well, yeah, exactly. Like I really had to figure it out so that I made sure I had enough. But
Yeah.
the candy was like my little thing. And then with toys, as far as toys,
Yeah, what was in the book
I
bag?
mean, I think it was just like whatever was at the dollar store that I
Okay.
kind of just had. I always really wanted Barbies. And so I had them when I was little, and then
The dollar store Barbies?
yeah, exactly, the dollar store Barbies. I had the dollar store Barbies, and I remember there was this clothing line that they had for the Barbies called Fashion Square or Fashion something that I always wanted, but the outfits were $10 and I couldn't afford it. And fun fact, one of my favorite modeling jobs that I ever did, because I did it from the age of, I'd say 9, of like whenever I started. I think I started at 8 or 9. From 9 to 13 is when I modeled, and that's it.
Wow.
And then I never really did it again. But it was a great little period because I was just like the perfect clothing size. So I would work a lot for like a lot of the things. But this particular job, I did a Barbie campaign for Barbie's 50th anniversary, and it was amazing. There were billboards all over New York City, on bus stops, and it was black and
you
white.
You were on the billboard?
Yeah, so
wow.
I was Teresa Barbie. So they chose 6 girls, 2 blondes, 2 Barbies, 2 Teresas, which is the brunette Barbie. And then so on, just basically every little like ethnicity that they had for the Barbies. And that was like a dream job because not only did I get to be a Barbie, but I got Barbies.
Oh, no
yeah,
way.
So, yes.
That's how they paid you?
Yeah. No. Well, they paid me.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they paid me well. I think it was like 4 days of we went up to some house in Connecticut, maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. And just shot in this beautiful land in this mansion. And
wow.
It was amazing. It was like a dream come true. And it's interesting because at that age, like I would book jobs and I would be grateful, but like I didn't understand really. I was just like, this is fun. Yeah. I get free clothes. I get to do this. But that job was one that I definitely was like, wow, I get to be Teresa Barbie. How amazing is this? Yeah, so I got my Barbies. Yeah.
You made it. Nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about 9 years old. Your mom is telling you maybe we should do this, or are you telling her I want to act, I want to model?
No, somebody stopped my mom because being in the city, we would just
you walk by
adventure.
Everybody.
Yeah, you walk by everyone. And I had really long hair. I've always had long hair. This is the shortest, actually. It's been because of days.
Okay.
They like it a certain length, but my hair's always been up to here. I've just always had like my princess hair is what I call it. Yeah. So like since like I was young, and someone stopped my mom and was like, your daughter. I think it happened quite a bit. It happened enough for my mom to be like, okay, you know what, like, let's try this. And so she mentioned it to me, and I was just, my mom never pressured me, which is the best thing. She was never a staged mom. She was always like, look, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. But I was like, yeah, why not? Like, that'd be fun. But my first audition, basically what set everything off, was for a sunflower commercial. And sunflower is a perfume. I forget what the perfume was. But it was just a commercial. It was an open call, so a cattle call is what they call, where it's like hundreds of girls go. And you basically just kind of sit around all day and wait until they call you. And then, you maybe get like a minute to just see if there's anything. And I remember I walked into this audition, and like I said, we didn't have much. So I basically kind of had the same rotation of clothes that I would wear. And I was always a big tomboy. And I still am, but being Gabby has definitely made me come into my feminine. But I was wearing ripped jeans and a white t-shirt, and that was it. And I walked in, and all the girls were wearing these sunflower dresses, and they were beautiful and flowers, and they were done up. And I remember walking in and being like, this is a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just not like these girls, they're all perfect and whatever.
They came dressed for the part.
Yeah, they
with
came
sunflower
dressed.
dresses. That's genius.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, everybody was so pretty, and I'm over here like in my ripped jeans and a white t-shirt, being like, "What am I doing here?" But I went, I did it, I waited. They called me up. It was like little personality questions. Ended up making it to the top 3 of hundreds of girls. Didn't get it. It wasn't meant to be. But the casting director took such a liking to me that she ended up calling me in for stuff.
Nice.
So,
so what exactly are you doing? Are you like spraying it and acting out a commercial?
No. It wasn't even that. It was literally just sit around with a bunch of chairs, a bunch of girls, and it'd be like, hey, so it was like personality questions that they were asking us. So like, what is your favorite TV show? And what's funny is I remember at that time I loved Rugrats.
That was my favorite.
Loved it. So that was my answer. I was like, I love Rugrats. And maybe like another personality question, like, Rugrats, right? Just something, just nothing like, oh, come in and let's pretend, whatever. And it was great because the casting director took such a liking to me that she called me in for a movie. And it was The Long Kiss Goodnight to be Gina Davis's daughter. And that was my first audition that I ever had as far as just like a movie. And what's interesting is I had never read sides. I had never acted, like I'd never done anything like that. And she taught me. She literally took her time and she was like, just put it down. She was like, don't try and act, just be. Just read it and see and just do what comes like to you just authentically. And it was beautiful because after that she kept calling me in. And
how'd that one go? Did you get it?
No, I didn't get it, but I got close.
Okay.
And then the next one was Riding in Cars with Boys with Drew Barrymore. Like this casting director.
I love that movie.
Yeah, so it was just like I was just all of a sudden getting called in, and while I'm getting called in for these opportunities, not knowing anything about the industry or just about acting, she's working with me. She's spending time working with me. She took a liking to me, and then she was like, okay, you need to get an agent. That's like the next thing. And so back in the day, they used to have, I don't know where, if it was like at libraries or somewhere, but you could buy like a sheet with all the agencies in New York City.
Really?
And it was stickers that you could put on like a yellow envelope, and you put your resume and your picture in it, and then you'd send it out and hope that somebody maybe liked you. Like enough. So we sent out, I think like 50. I think we sent out every single one, and only, I don't know if it was 2, but I think it was, maybe it was 2 or maybe it was 1 only responded.
Wow.
And that was who I went with. And I was with them, and basically that's how I got into the modeling. They were like, okay, we're going to send you out for both. And so I would just book jobs, and I would just basically just book jobs. Like I did Target before anybody even knew, before I even knew what Target was. I did like the local department store down at 14th Street in Union Square. I did a math book. So somewhere in someone's school, I am in a math book.
That's amazing.
Just like all the different things. And then it went from that to commercials. And then I did a Philip Morris commercial. Back in the day, they did a whole campaign for kids not to smoke cigarettes. So I was in that one. And because I spoke Spanish, I had an advantage that I would be able to do both, And so that commercial was great. I said, for my future at the top of a building in New York City. So all of a sudden I started booking, and all these opportunities started coming, and money started coming with it. And so I think that was a beautiful thing for us, my mom and I, just because like, she's also working, but then all of a sudden I'm working and I'm little.
Now she has a second income.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say
nice.
that was just like a blessing. And then it was all fun. I mean, I really had so much fun, but I remember there was one audition that I went for. I don't remember. It was a big brand, but I went in, and the woman looked at the girl. It was between me and another girl. And she said, you got the job. To the other girl, looked at me. She said, you didn't get the job, but maybe if you gain a little bit of weight, you can come back next year. And I left to a child, and I left, and I called my mom on a payphone, because that was back in the day, with before cell phones. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And my mom said to me, I'm so sorry, but you know what, Cherie, this is exactly how it's going to be. So if you want to stop this right now, let's stop this right now. And I just like sucked it up. And in that moment, I mean, obviously now being older, I understand what that was. But then I didn't. I was just like, no, I want to do this. But damn, like that hurt. And so that was my first time being rejected and really feeling it. And it was harsh. It was really harsh. And so that was an interesting one, because I still chose to do it. And yeah, from then on, I mean, honestly, my other favorite job was Dolce and Gabbana.
Okay.
I did a Dolce and Gabbana campaign with Giselle Bundchen, and that was with Stephen Meisel, who's a huge photographer, and I was in Vogue.
Oh
I
my
was
God.
in. I
And what age are we at now?
at that age, I want to say that I was maybe like 11.
So you
11.
were alone doing these things at 11?
No.
Oh,
No.
you said you called your mom.
Because my abuela would take me.
Oh, okay.
So if it wasn't my mom, then it was my abuela, and if it wasn't her, then it was Wendy, who we lived with in Alphabet City.
Okay.
So like basically between those three, no. The only time I was really alone was when I was going to school in middle school. I would ride the subway alone.
Okay.
You know, which now looking back, I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
Middle school especially? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Especially
like that's
back
just
then.
the way it was. Yeah, and then I had my quarters, so I would stop every couple of blocks and I would call my mom on the payphone to make sure that she knew where I was. And I'd be like, okay, I'm on this block now. And then I'd call her, like, depending on how far I was walking.
Wow.
But that was just like what it was. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So what's junior high and high school like?
Well, junior high was interesting because prior to that, I went to like a public school.
Okay.
And I had started modeling. And because I was in Bradley's, I think is what it was called, in Union Square,
I remember
which
that
was
store.
which was a department store. I was in that catalog. A bunch of the girls at the school that I went to found out that I was in this catalog, and I got bullied like bad. It was crazy.
Jealousy.
I got thrown
right?
down the stairs. Yeah, I
What?
got thrown down the stairs. My mom showed up at the school and basically threatened to break kneecaps, and like she rode for me. Yeah, my mom, because you know, she's like, what the hell? And basically it kind of put us in a situation where we're like, well, what do we do? Because, you know, like I'm young and all of a sudden I'm modeling and I'm getting bullied for it. And this is like really crazy. And then my mom is working. She's a single mom. So like she can't protect me. And I've always kind of, I mean, not always been a fighter, but I've fought back, you know, and I've gotten into fights. Not that I'm proud of it. But
In New York City.
I've never been one to back down. Like, but I wouldn't start a fight, but like, we're going to fight. We're going to fucking, excuse my language,
Gotta
but
defend
we're going to
yourself,
fucking
yeah.
fight. Yeah. And so, but that situation was a different one because, you know, like you're vulnerable in a different state. You're young. You have a bunch of girls, you get thrown down the stairs, crazy. And it led us to the Professional Performing Arts School, which is PPAS, which the movie Fame, I'm not sure if you're familiar
I've
with
heard of it, but I don't know.
So there's LaGuardia and there's PPAS, the Professional Performing Arts School, which is an art school. So my mom was like, okay, let's do an audition for the school and see about if you can get in. They accepted 50 kids. I got in. I sang a song. I did 2 monologues or something. I got in and I left that school. And then now I was surrounded by kids that were on Broadway shows, acting, modeling.
The kids you should
basically,
be around.
Yes. And the bullying. Like basically everyone got along. The only reason somebody was mad was because maybe they booked the job that they wanted. You know, like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was a beautiful thing for me because I was in the arts. My mom also she also put me in the Broadway Dance Center. Also, I did ballet
Wow.
as well. So my mom put me in everything because when we lived in Brooklyn, where we lived, it's not that Brooklyn, I mean, now Brooklyn is so different.
Gentrified, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But back then, when we lived in Brooklyn, there was one side where it was Hasidic Jews and the other side was Latin Kings.
Wow.
And with the Latin Kings, it was a beautiful thing because they protected my mom and I. They knew that she was a single mom. My abuela would come sometimes and they would help us with groceries. Like there was a level of just protection and respect, which was beautiful. But I started hanging out with one of the girls and then her brother, and basically the landlord was like, you need to do something about this. And my mom put me in the Broadway Dance Center to keep me busy. So she basically was like, oh, we're just gonna
Keep her busy.
Yeah, just keep me busy, you know, like the arts.
Absolutely.
Which was a beautiful thing. But I did ballet for a little bit and I got offered a scholarship to do it, like for real.
Scholarship, would that be college or what?
No. I'm not quite sure exactly what the details were with the scholarship, but I got like a 4-year scholarship to train in ballet. Like whatever I was doing, they saw potential in me actually becoming a ballerina. And at that age, I was doing so much, I got overwhelmed. And my mom was like, what do you want to drop? What do you want to give up? And I didn't want to give up acting. And so I gave up ballet. And so I always have a special place in my heart because I always think to myself how crazy it would have been if I had chosen that path. But I'm grateful with the one I went with.
Good.
So yeah, I went to school there, and I went to PPAS. It was great. And then my mom met my stepdad, David, who's amazing. Love him so much. And we moved to Westchester, to White Plains. And I was pissed at first because I had auditioned for the drama program in the high school, and you had to live in one of the 5 boroughs in order to go to school there. And so I got in, like, because even though I went to the middle school does not mean that I could get in. And so I had to go to White Plains High School, a real, like a real school.
And public too, right?
Yeah. And prior to that, I was acting a lot. Like I was booking all of a sudden films, and a lot of independent films, but great ones. And I went to Sundance Filmmakers Lab. So Sundance.
What is Filmmakers Lab?
Ooh, it's amazing. So for 1 month out of the year, Sundance, where they have, they will take, let's say, 6 directors with 6 scripts, and they will bring you to Sundance, and they will give you all the tools to make your movie. But they have you choose a couple of scenes from your movie, and you bring the actors, and they basically have workshops there. And they just kind of give you all the tools to make a movie. And then by the end of it, every week, you showcase in a big movie theater the scenes that you did.
Wow.
And then by the end of it, you have the opportunity to go and have your movie be made into a movie by going to Sundance. And so it's just like a beautiful experience. It kind of just gives unknown, just people that are just wanting to write and wanting to create an opportunity to like just go into a different level of your career and like make a film. And also I think it teaches them a lot about
Absolutely.
it. And so
what do they give everybody though? Like you're an actress coming in. Do they bring in a writer, an actress, a filmographer, editor?
So you have to audition. I think that they bring all the people behind the scenes, and then the camera equipment and all of that, but you bring the actors. So you direct the movie and you write the movie, or you have a writer and a director, but this Filmmakers Lab is somebody that wrote the movie and is possibly directing, unless you wrote the movie and you bring your own director.
I see.
Kind of thing. And then there's just actors there. So when I was 12 years old, I booked Caucasia. And Caucasia, this movie, amazing. This is where I decided that I really wanted to be an actress, when I realized just what this was for me, because before that it was all fun. I would, I'd book jobs and I'd work with cute guys on modeling things, and I'd get free clothes and Barbies and this and that and blah, blah. It was all great. And then commercials, it's fun. Like I'm on TV and my family's like, oh my God. But this one was different because I went into the situation and I was 12 years old. I was the youngest one at Sundance that year. My mom and I moved out to Utah, and I was still in school, but because I went to the performing arts school.
Wait, why Utah?
The what? Oh, because Utah is where the Sundance Filmmakers Lab is. So Utah is where Sundance is, where Robert Redford's just world of film out there is quite beautiful.
So you officially moved there?
Well, for like a month. And at that point, you know what I mean? Just like what life was. We were so used to the nomadic lifestyle that it wasn't a big deal.
What's a month?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's a month? And also for school too, that was a thing, because they encouraged me to go. They weren't like, oh, well, you can't go because you have to finish your studies. It was like, this is what we want, so go. So It was a beautiful thing. And it's wild even being older and thinking about this. But my sister, my half-sister, because it was about an interracial family, and my mother had to take me on the run because the feds were after them. And then my father, or my stepfather, because it was the husband and the wife, they had their own daughters, and then they came together as a family. So my half-sister was Kerry Washington.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. My stepfather was Michael Beach. My mother was Connie Britton, and my boyfriend, because whatever, like the guy, was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Get out of here.
Isn't that insane?
That is insane.
Yes, insane.
At the time, did you know who these people were?
No. I knew who Jake Gyllenhaal was because I'd saw him in a movie.
Okay.
And mind you, everybody that I was surrounded by, like I got acting classes by Delroy Lindo. I got acting classes by Sally Field. I was a part of conversations and a part of screenplay. Like it was an incredible experience because as a young actor, just as an actor in general, to be a part of that world, like, wow, you get to just learn so much. You get to be around other creatives, writers, directors, everything. So while we were there, you know, like another director was like, hey, can you do the screenplay reading for me? So I got to join in on
Wow.
other things. I got to just kind of be in this world that was not something that I was necessarily used to. And it was like, even though I was working on my craft in school and at the Broadway Dance Center, this was like really working on my craft. And I got to do it with my mom, which was the
Amazing.
best thing ever. We had so much fun. But specifically, I had one scene with Michael Beach, and it was about how I had found my dad after years of him leaving and us separating. And I show up at his house and I'm basically like, why did you never come back for me? You know, and I had to get somewhere emotionally that I had never been before. And I didn't like it. I got really uncomfortable. I got really introverted and insecure, and just like I had a block that I just couldn't get emotional and I couldn't do it.
At this time, how are you feeling about your biological father? Do you know anything yet?
Yeah, well, at this, and that's exactly what it is because he wasn't around, and there was a lot of disappointment in times where he was supposed to be and he wasn't, and so I think I had just learned to really bottle it up at a young age.
Especially your mother always made it seem like everything's
Everything is
okay.
all good, exactly. So
So
like,
it's like, you know how they, well, you know more than me, of course, with the acting, but it's like to get that raw emotion, you tap into real things.
it happens
But
to
at that
everything.
moment, you're not purposely tapping in. You're
No,
tapping in because the role is making you tap in.
exactly.
That's deep.
Yeah, and I had a block. I just couldn't do like not only I mean, I could do it, but I didn't want to. I
Of
guess now
course.
looking
It's something
back,
you swept under the rug. You don't
yes.
want to.
And in the middle of our scenes, I literally turned to Michael Beach and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be an actress.
Wow.
I don't like this. I did not like the way it made me feel. And so I decided, I don't want to do this. And I got into the space where, like, I mean, at 12, I was like, well, like, I don't give a damn what's happening around me. I don't like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And Michael Beach, wonderful, pulled me aside and he was like, you know what? You're all good. Come here. I got you. He was like, forget about everybody else. Does not matter. Look at me. Breathe. Let's just do a little improv. You know, you're all good. And improv, you know, is just kind of taking the scene and putting your own spin on it. So not saying the lines that are written, but just like speaking what comes and just letting that be and seeing like kind of where it takes you. And it got, I mean, the beautiful thing about it is I went from not wanting to be an actor to wanting to be an actor within 5 minutes because of where I was able to all like what happened. And I still don't even know to this day, but something happened and he opened something inside of me that allowed me to tap in and really just give. And I allowed myself to be vulnerable. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful that the scene, I was crying. I mean, I don't even really remember. It was like I blacked out, but it was just so beautiful that by the end of it, he gave me a hug. And I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I go, oh, I want to do this forever. I don't ever not want to feel this. Like, well, I don't know what just happened, but like, what? Wow, is this what it means to like give yourself and be an actor and like just, and at the end of it too, because there were a bunch of different actors and a bunch of different directors. Stanley Tucci was there and he was overseeing my scenes that day.
Wow.
Because they would just, I know, that's what I'm saying. This is crazy. like even
I
saying
met
this
him
out
once.
loud is crazy.
He's
Yeah.
good. He's good.
Yeah. And he came over and he said, that was so amazing to see what you went through, the ride that you went through on. You are so incredibly talented. You're so young. If you choose to do this when you're older, if you want to do this, I went to SUNY Purchase Acting Conservatory. And so I think it would be great for you to continue to work on your craft. And I was like, okay. Time went on. We left and it was such an incredible experience. And then we moved to White Plains. And my whole world was like, what the fuck? I did not want to move here. I wanted to stay in the city. I wanted to go. I was acting. Everything was like, all of a sudden, I just decided I wanted to be an actor. And then I go to a public school where they don't allow me to audition. They don't give a damn.
They don't care.
Also, I realized that because I had focused on the arts, I never really focused on my academics. And not that I wasn't smart by any means, but like at the performing arts school, the morning half would be academics and the second half would be arts. So like you would do what you had to do and then it would be good. So I never had a full day of like math, all the things. And so I was not happy. I realized how not smart I was in certain subjects, academic, you know, like I was not doing well necessarily. I tried to do theater in high school, and the theater teacher, that too, when I started White Plains, I didn't tell anybody that I was an actor or a model because I was scarred from that situation, from the bullying. So I didn't tell anybody. So people would be like, I swear I saw you in this movie called Jump Tomorrow. And I was like, you know, everybody keeps telling me that. I would straight up deny it because I didn't want anybody knowing. And then my girlfriends now, I let them know eventually. And they were like, what? And they were like, are you kidding me? And I was like, well, yeah, I did this and that. And they were like, how do you? And I was like, but don't tell nobody. Please just don't tell nobody. And so I thought that I would be able to do it in school. And the theater teacher basically turned her back on me and did not like that I had movies and commercials running on TV. And the one person that I opened up to ended up shutting me out. And so I never did theater in high school. And so I guess the beautiful thing about that in hindsight now looking back is that I get to just enjoy being a kid and, you know, having friends and being in high school. And every so often I'd be sick and I'd go on and I would go on an audition.
Oh,
because,
good.
Yeah, but like I basically didn't. I had to kind of stop because I couldn't miss this many days and do all these things. So it was weird. It was like all of a sudden, like everything in my career was going and then all of a sudden it just stopped, which I was okay with. And now looking back, I'm perfectly fine with that. So, you know, it chose to be a kid.
So at this time, I'm assuming you're telling your mother you don't want to continue acting. You're in White Plains. And what is she telling you? She's telling you, oh, maybe on the weekends or after school? Or
I think that she still wanted me to do it. But also my mom was also starting to grow up herself. So because my mom had me young, we were best friends. We had a really, and we still do, obviously. She's my best friend. But we had a great relationship. And then all of a sudden she meets my stepdad. She gets pregnant with my brother. And she starts coming into herself more as a woman. And so I think she started to become a little bit more strict. And all of a sudden, this relationship that we had as best friends was like, oh, well, no, you can't do that. And I was like, what? So it changed the dynamic of our relationship because then I started rebelling. And then I was like, well, screw this. Like, if this is how it's going to be, then I'm not going to do what you tell me.
Oh.
And so, you know, like, so high school was a little tough, you know, like I'd skip class sometimes. I started smoking weed. And granted, I did not ever dive into a lot of just kind of what teens can dive into in that world of just really messing up and who knows, like all the different paths where you could go. I also had a really great group of girlfriends, but also I was a teenager, you know, like I had a drink, although I never cared for drinking. I drank in high school once and I didn't like it. And I got really drunk and I got hung, like, you know, like it was just not a good situation. And I literally was like, I think I'm good with that. And you know what? I was. So anytime I'd go, you know, because in White Plains, it was different in the city. I grew up going to Broadway shows. It's the city, Central Park, Bryant Park. In White Plains, they'd have keg parties in the woods. So like, and not to say that things don't go on, but like house parties, which were fun. I had so much fun. Everything was great. So I would be with my Propel water and everybody would be drinking. So the cops would come and I'd be out. Nice. You know what I mean? Like just running from the cops but like not doing anything crazy. Yeah, you weren't doing just crazy, like hanging out, having a good time. So that definitely was a little difficult for my mom too. And, you know, I just I think too, I was upset now looking back because I wanted to stay in the city.
Absolutely.
You know, and then she was like, well, if you want to. And then last minute she was like, no, Cherie, you have to live with us in White Plains. And so I went into it incredibly resistant, but I met my best friends. I have a group of girlfriends, like there's 10 of us, which is wild. As a girl, you don't really, and I'm not saying you don't have that, but I'm very lucky. I have a very close group of girlfriends that to this day I'm still best friends with. I have a different relationship with every single one. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So
yeah, that's something I was meant
to meet my girls.
From high school, you don't hear that often.
No.
And like you said, especially females.
Yeah, I was meant to meet them. And so I look at White Plains and not that I didn't gain other things, but really it was my girls that I was meant to meet.
Lifelong friendships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So did you graduate?
thank God. Yeah. Well, I went to summer school. Oh my God.
After 12th grade?
No, yeah. Before. Like I
So
said,
you were failing
I
11th
wasn't.
grade?
Well, I did cheerleading because I was a dancer. So I was like, what can I do? And cheerleading, which now looking back, I wish it was volleyball, but I didn't know that I could play volleyball until senior year. I went to somewhere and we were playing volleyball and I was like, oh my God, this is what I should have done in high school. But, you know, because I was a dancer and all these things, I was like, I'll do cheerleading. It was fun. It was great. Whatever, you know, for like what it was. But no, I feel like school was not something that I cared for. Now, I loved history. There are certain things that I enjoyed. Like I loved history. That was basically like my class. And so the classes that I enjoyed, I wouldn't skip. And the classes that I didn't enjoy, like math and science, I would skip. So I always had a certain number of classes I could skip or like a certain number of skips that I could have, like absences.
Yeah.
So my mom would get the card and I would try and hide it before she got it, you know. But like I was also very confrontational in high school with my teachers. So, you know, like a teacher would talk to me a certain way, I would talk back. So I would get a lot of notes about how Cherie was confrontational. And my mom would be like, Cherie again? And I was like, I didn't like the way she talked to me. You know? I would get like detention slips, I'd rip them up and she'd give me another one and send me detention. I was like, you know what? I'm going to send myself to detention. So I definitely had my my attitude, but when I cared, you know? And so I had my teachers that treated me with respect and I had teachers that didn't, you know? And so I got along with everybody, which was great, you know, because I was in a lot of like the lower classes and, you know, I had to take the same math over and over again because I just didn't understand it. It wasn't clicking. And,
in the art school, they don't care too much about
they
math
don't care.
and stuff, right?
Yeah. And honestly, like I was doing great, but like in high school, you know, in a school, in a real school, I guess,
Yeah.
they don't give a damn. They're not going to tolerate it.
Yeah.
So I went to summer school for science and math and I passed finally. And then senior year, I was just grateful to be done. And that's when I decided after senior year, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? Am I going to move to Los Angeles? Or am I going to go to college? And then I remembered Stanley Tucci said, when you're older, and college, by college, I mean like acting college. Like
Okay.
I'm not doing academics ever again.
I
I want
see
nothing
that.
to do with that. I still count on my fingers. I got my calculator. I'm good. We don't need math. I'm traumatized by math. Like, no, thank you. You know, and I auditioned for Juilliard and I auditioned for SUNY Purchase Acting Conservatory. Juilliard at that time accepted 21 from all around the world or the US, and Purchase accepted 26 from all around the US. So I was like, look, I got nothing to lose. If I don't get into this, I'll go move to Los Angeles. And Juilliard didn't get in. SUNY Purchase, I got in. And that to me was like, oh my God. And mind you, there's no academics. It's literally every acting class. There's voice classes. Like I used to have a really thick New York accent. It comes out when I'm with my girls every so often. But I had a class where they basically had me change the way I talk.
Wow.
Completely. And it was my hardest class because every day I'd have an eraser in my mouth that would help me change the position of my tongue. And I do these exercises.
Get outta
And she was
here.
basically like, your accent. And I was like, what accent? And of course I had an accent. But it ended up being one of the most beneficial classes because before I knew it, all of a sudden I was like, oh shit. And now I can come back when I have an audition, if I have an audition for like a New Yorker or a Bronx girl or whatever it is. But I basically just got an incredible year of every type of acting class that I could imagine. But the thing is that I never really read plays. Acting was something that just kind of came into my life. I went to this acting conservatory with theater kids that like lived and breathed Shakespeare and acting. So I worked on monologues to get into the school. I did a Shakespeare monologue and I did a contemporary monologue. And that was that. Like I learned Shakespeare for the monologue and I got in. And so when they would talk about like, so have you read blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, oh no. They'd be like, ugh. And so I was judged so much. They were like, how did you get in here? Because I was the only one that wasn't like, just like enthralled with all of this. And I didn't do theater in high school. So I was basically kind of shunned by a lot of the classmates that I thought, and all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing? And then half the teachers loved me and half the teachers didn't believe in me. And so it was an interesting thing because here I am in this acting conservatory where I'm supposed to grow as an actor and learn all these things. And I'm basically being told, well, you'll never be a theater actress. Only a camera will it was just really strange. And so my roommate in college was a ballerina because I went to a performing arts college. So there was the ballerinas, the actors, the musicians. And so I was taken in by the ballerinas. So I was made an honorary, so it's funny. I was made an honorary ballerina and I would hang out with them. I mean, not that I wouldn't hang out with kids that I did theater with, but I basically was hanging out with the ballerinas. So it was funny because I was like, but then I got to see what they were going through. And I was grateful that wasn't my path, because they dealt with really intense requirements of perfection.
Yeah,
and
posture, every little thing
little thing. Do you have the right feet? Do you have this? Well, there's just a lot. So I was supposed to stay for 4 years and get my BFA and, and then move out to LA. And that was the goal. But I was not happy. I was being put down a lot. And I was being made to feel less than and I didn't belong there, but I got in. So I was like, well, what is this, And at that age, I don't think I was really self-aware the way that I am now. And I decided probably 5 months before the year was over that I didn't want to be there anymore.
The first year.
But I didn't tell anyone. It was just internal. It was just I dealt with this. I don't think I belong here. This sucks. I'm not really being made to excel. I'm really being put down a lot, but then I had the teachers that did care about me. So I did my final scenes where you do the scenes in front of everybody, and it was amazing. It went amazing, and then I left. And I decided I'm going to move to California. Nice. I'm done. I'm not going to be put down anymore, and I'm just going to go out and just go experience and see what it all has to offer.
You were acting as a kid. You didn't have any of this college or anything, so you could definitely do it without the college. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask, so to backtrack a little bit, the woman that told you to gain weight, did that stay in your mind? Was that always something in your mind where it's man, I might need to look different for certain roles, or did you just completely just forget about that?
I actually, thankfully, that's not something that ever affected me, because as a young woman, that's a crazy thing. As a young kid, to be told that, I think that what it was for me more than the weight, I mean, obviously as a whole, was just the rejection, the harsh rejection that I had experienced at such a young age stayed with me more than the weight thing. The weight thing, I didn't really understand. I was little. I've always been petite. And, as a woman, I've grown and I got body and all the things. But and also I like myself a little bit more meat, because I am petite. So I try and make sure to make my body, But the weight thing wasn't a thing. It was just the rejection of being such a young age. But also it made me stronger. And it made me realize, okay, so if I'm going to do this, can it actually get worse than that? And so I think in a way it toughened me up and it instilled something inside of me to just kind of okay, good, let's just keep going. Yeah. Good.
And I also wanted to ask about the class that you had the most difficulty in, where you had to change the way you speak. That sounds very interesting. And I'm assuming it's how New Yorkers say coffee. Is it that accent? What is it that they were trying to remove from your accent?
So because my A's and my S's and my I coffee and talk and I had a very, and my S's were, I guess I just had a way that I would talk all the time. And for her, she basically changed, like I said, I had to learn a whole phonetic alphabet. So I had to learn a whole new alphabet, and each alphabet was a sound. So instead of or, it was ah. So it was just the slightest repositioning of my tongue and my mouth. And it was brutal. I mean, to me, I would relate, it was a speech class. I would compare it to math. Math was so difficult that speech class was so difficult, but it was the most beneficial class, because by the end of it, now if I ever have a project where I have to have an accent, I worked with a dialect coach, and it's easier for me to really learn a new accent. So in turn, it helped me so much.
Nice.
To really just kind of, it was a tough one, but it was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's get to the transition from New York to California. Yeah. When you tell your mother, how did she react?
Shocked. And I think it was more of just like, what? You're not going to finish?
Dropping out of school and I'm moving out of the state.
And I think
Across
it
the
took her a
country.
moment to process it. And then she immediately was like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. So
when she
she
said
was,
let's, it was just you
yeah.
and I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, I think they moved me out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went to LA for 2 weeks to go look at apartments. I found one on the last day. And then I was like, okay, we're just going to do this. So her and David, my stepdad, have been incredibly supportive. Like I said, they were just like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. They threw a going away party for me. It was beautiful.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
So how was that transition? Moving there, now you're there and you're alone. You don't know anyone?
No, the only person I know is my manager, who I had been with since I started.
Wow.
Well, she was my agent, her and her mother.
Yeah.
When I sent that
that
envelope out.
So they lived over there?
Yeah,
no.
Well, she had moved to Los Angeles at some point when I was in high school.
Okay.
So, like I said, I would audition here and there, but nothing crazy. Like I had one big audition in high school. Well, actually, I had two. I had a big audition, and I might as well just go back just because. I had an audition. My first screen test was for a soap opera called One Life to Live. When I was 15, 16, I didn't get it. It wasn't meant to be. Perfectly fine. Then right before college, when I was auditioning, I auditioned for this movie called A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints. Great movie with Channing Tatum and a bunch of people. And I was auditioning for this movie for about almost a year. I would go in on auditions and I would basically be the girl that they wanted, but they were just doing auditions. Then it stopped for a moment. Then I auditioned for college. And around the same time that I got into college, I found out that I got this movie, but I couldn't do both. It was either this movie or college. And the character that I had auditioned for in the movie had changed so much over a year. She had gone from this fun, a little sexual kind of girl to just a complete whore. And look, every character serves a purpose. I never judge characters. That's just something I don't do. Everybody, it just is. But do I go and train and study at this prestigious school, or do I go do this movie just because it's a movie and I play this character that I'm not that crazy about, like now? So I chose school.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do that. But LA was tough. LA was very tough when I first moved there.
What year is this?
So I graduated high school in 2005, and then I went to college that fall. So 2006, after that year, I moved to LA September 20th of 2006. And my manager agent that I had been with since I was young was always just kind of there. So she still represented me, but she knew that I had to take a moment. She would send me auditions. And so she was the only person I knew, which thank God. And so she would kind of just take me to audition, or just take me to go eat. And I started meeting with agents. And that was tough because in New York, I had established relationships with casting directors, and I just had a really great career in New York despite stopping. Even the opportunities that were presented to me were amazing. Then all of a sudden I'm going to LA and leaving behind everything I know to start over, and people aren't giving me the opportunity because the last thing I did was when I was younger. So they're like, okay, that's great, you did that, but what have you done over the last year?
You didn't finish college. You haven't acted since you were a kid.
Yeah, they didn't care that I went to an acting conservatory. They were like, okay, so what is your latest TV credit? And so it was a lot of resistance, and it was really hard. And I basically had an agency that signed me but didn't like me. And I could feel that they didn't like me. It was like they just signed me because they knew my manager. And so even not having friends, I kind of went into a little bit of a depression because I was like, what have I done? What am I doing here? And I remember it was just really difficult for me to even get representation, and that agency dropped me because they were like, yeah, sorry, but we have somebody like you. You're just not working out. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, what am I doing here? Do I just go back to New York, where at least I know that I have these relationships? And my girlfriend, Marina, one of my girlfriends, I remember she was like, you know what, Cherie, you moved out there for a reason. So give it a chance.
Absolutely.
Just give it a chance. And if it doesn't work out, then move home. But you have to give it a chance, because if you don't, then what did you do this for? And because of her, I stayed. And I mean, it was difficult. I moved there when I was 19.
Tell us about LA in 2006.
LA in 2006. Well, once I started to make friends and I started to go out, the parties were insane. I mean, you're literally in young Hollywood, like everything that we see, you know, like all the parties, all the celebrities, but it's so normal. So lots of, you know, like it's so normal
It's
to them.
normal, yeah.
And for me, I've never really cared too much about famous people. That hasn't necessarily been like a thing where I'm like, oh my God, now I have my people I've gotten starstruck over. But for the most part, I just never really, so I was just young. And even though I was smart and I had my street smarts, I was also naive. I was a young woman trying to figure out my way. Also coming into this industry where being a Latina back in the day was not necessarily welcomed in the industry. A lot of
Really?
people did not want to sign me because they'd be like, well, I already have my one Latina. Sorry, I don't need another one. There was only room for just so many of us. And so I missed out on a lot of opportunities, or not missed out because I didn't miss out on anything, but I wasn't given the opportunity to audition for things because of my last name, because I was Jimenez. So
Did you ever think about changing your name
I
because of that?
did for a little bit
I hear that a
because I
lot.
had to. Well, no, but okay. So my stepdad, David, his last name is Daly, and when I was 18, he adopted me. I love him so much. So I took on Daly, and I was like, and I'm proud, you know, like I was like, yeah, but Jimenez, like Cherie Jimenez, that's just how I grew up. That was my name. And so that's just always kind of what I saw myself in the industry as. And my manager at the time was like, look, Cherie, you're barely getting auditions. You're barely getting opportunities. How about you change your last name to Daly? And I said, no. I'm proud to be a Daly, but also like I'm Jimenez. And she was like, okay, I'm just saying, like, maybe it'll help you. Another year goes by of barely any auditions. And even the ones I'm getting, half of them are not right for me. Like it's just not working out. And so I changed it to Daily for like I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Let's change it to Daily. And auditions started coming in. Auditions started coming in. I started getting auditions all of a sudden just from changing my last name. And now the crazy thing is that my first job in LA was when I was 22. It was for a McDonald's commercial, which is the best McDonald's commercial to ever exist. It's a love story in a train. I did it in Spanish and English, even though I don't speak in it, but it's shot so beautifully. I'll like send it to you.
All right.
It's shot really beautifully. And it's a love story in a train where this guy falls in love with me, and it's just great. So that was a cool experience. And also for McDonald's commercial. And also 22 was when I cut my parents off and I started to support myself because I was seeing a therapist at the time, just to kind of help me transition through all of it. And the one thing she said was, you know, and my mom and I were bumping heads around that time too, me moving because they sent me money to help me like live. And the rebellious girl in me was still there. And also I was partying and I wasn't getting auditions, and like I was just enjoying. So my mom was like, what are you doing out there? You know, like I'm trying to find a job, but I can't actually find a job. Nobody would hire me. Like I walked into every single place on Rodeo Drive or Sunset, just anywhere trying to get a job, at a retail store, at a restaurant. Nobody was hiring me. And I couldn't get auditions, and my parents are supporting me. So the therapist was like, you need to break off and you need to support yourself. And even if it causes a rift between you and your parents, it'll be better in the long run. You need to learn how to be independent. So she taught me how to budget. She taught me how to, I basically got a bottle service job because I was like, okay, well, what can I make money? And the restaurants won't hire me. The retail and bottle service gave me the means to be able to support myself. And so I basically closed the bank account I opened up my own bank account, and that bank account that my parents put money in was gone.
Wow.
And it made my mom and it was not a good situation for a little bit because she was like, what? All of a sudden, like there was no control, there was no, and I know at the end of the day, like my mom cares about me and she wanted to, you know, support me and take care of me, but it was the best thing that I had ever done because it taught me independence. And I realized that first year, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? So I didn't have cable. There were certain things that I realized I would sell CDs. I would sell clothes, like, because I started to realize how my parents did so much for me. And I was like, oh my God, this is really difficult supporting myself, but I refused to ask them for anything. So I just made it work and I did what I had to do. And then I booked the McDonald's commercial. So that gave me a lot of money because national commercials, you get paid every time it airs. So
nice.
It ended up being a beautiful thing. But when I was 22, before I changed it to Daily, because I hadn't been Daily yet, I changed a thing to Daily probably when I was 23 or so. I auditioned for Days of Our Lives and I auditioned for Gabby Hernandez. And
as Daily or
as Jimenez.
Okay.
So I changed shortly after that.
So that would work for that role, right?
Yeah.
The last
Yeah, it
name would work
did.
for that role.
Yeah, it would work for that role.
Yeah.
And I hadn't changed it to daily just yet. It came shortly after. I'm not quite sure the timeline, but I had auditioned for days. And at this time, even the Latin roles that did exist, they didn't have any depth to them. They were just the beautiful Latin girl, the spicy this, the girlfriend, the mistress, just whatever it was. And this was like a good role. This was great. This was a young girl who's moving to Salem and going to find her brother and starting a new life. And so I loved it. I loved it. And I got close to getting it, and it wasn't meant to be. And, I've always been, as I've grown older, the spirituality and just understanding the universe and things that are meant for you and that aren't, I did understand that at that age. But obviously, as I've grown, I understand it now on a deeper level. But I knew it was okay. It was like, it wasn't my time and it wasn't meant for me. It was meant for her. And I've always been a girl's girl, and all the girls I've always auditioned with, I'm friends with a lot of the Latin girls, because I'm like, look, we're not in competition with each other. We're trying to open doors for each other. At the end of the day, why can't we all have a space in this industry? Like, there's certain Latin actresses that are big, but there's only a few of them. But this is a beautiful thing. So it wasn't meant to be, but I always thought about it. It was always in the back of my mind. There's only certain roles when in my 20s that I auditioned for that I was like, oh, I wish that was meant to be. And Gabby was one of them. So cut to, Gabby goes away. Barely any auditions, barely anything. I changed to daily. I start getting auditions, and I'm like, of course I do. But
let's talk a little bit about the bottle service.
Yeah.
I want to know what was it. I'm assuming
service?
It was a club.
I worked everywhere. So I worked for a company called SPE. I'm not sure if it's out here, but it's a big, just
nightlife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a nightlife.
I'm assuming
company.
like DJs, everything.
They have hotels, they have restaurants,
nice.
they have clubs, and I worked in that for, I'd say, like 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So if I did have an audition, I would work till 4 a.m, and I would go the next day at 9 a.m. to my audition and half asleep, but I do what I had to do.
Do what you gotta do.
And I loved it for what it was. I've also never been a big drinker, like I said. So it was perfect for me because, the girls would drink on the job, this and that. But for me, I was all about the hustle. Like, I was definitely, especially with supporting myself. So I became very independent, and I was a hustler. Like, I would just make my money and hustle. And, I just had my thing where I'd always make friends with the girls because I knew that they were the most important thing. And as long as they're happy, then the buyer's happy. And it just kind of depended on, every club I worked at, and I'd wear my little corsets and my little outfits. And it was just always a lot of fun. But I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. And a lot of the girls were there forever. Like you don't leave a bottle service job.
They didn't have another plan.
Yeah, they kind of moved to LA to just be. And some were actors and whatever, but I loved it. But I also wasn't focusing on acting, so I wasn't getting enough sleep. And then in turn, my auditions would suffer because I wasn't really allowing myself the space to be fully ready for the opportunity. And so I think some laziness came about with the auditions because I was so tired, not because I wanted to, but just like I'm tired. I don't know. Let's see what it says, kind of thing. And then my last bottle service job, which was my favorite, was at Beecher's Madhouse. They have it in Vegas, but it's basically like a theater in the Roosevelt Hotel in LA, but they took it out because it caused so much chaos. Yeah. Because, they had people coming to stay there, but it was celebrity driven. It was just we had to sign an NDA and make sure that we wouldn't sell anything to TMZ because it was a small theater. You'd open it with a bookcase. You'd pull a book out and you'd go in, and it'd be a theater. And there would be the woman with the big tits who would smash watermelon. There would be the guy dressed as a clown just blowing up balloons. There would be the little people that would be dressed as Oompa Loompas that would be flying across and would deliver champagne bottles. There was the Beecher's babies, which they would do the burlesque, beautiful. We had the levitating guy. It was we had a DJ who was 10 years old. It was a world that existed only 2 days a week. It existed. And it was a different world that you would just go into. And it's crazy because I got that job because I'm friends with Miley Cyrus. And so,
What?
yeah, and so,
How'd that
well,
happen?
growing up in my 20s, I met a group of guys that ended up becoming like my homies, like brothers, like actual, they took care of me. And to this day, I actually presented one of them with an Emmy
Wow.
who's a producer for a show. So that was a circle,
Yeah, full circle.
wild.
That's
Yeah, but like I
nice.
have a group of guys. So in New York, I've got my girlfriends. In LA, making girlfriends was not very easy. I have my couple of girlfriends, but my guy friends, I met them and yeah, they taught me how to skateboard. We'd hang out. Like they were just, they were just my homies. And so within the group of homies, there's celebrities. So like Michael B. Jordan is one of my homies. Zac Efron is one of my
Wow.
homies. It just kind of became like a
Wild.
world that I was in and like great friends. But Miley ended up knowing Beecher. His name is Jeff Beecher. And at that point, I think I had like gotten fired from a bottle service job. And I was like, oh, and I was at her house and I was like, I don't know. I need a job. I need to figure it out. She was like, you want to work at Beecher's Madhouse? I was like, yeah. So she got me an interview and I got the job.
Wow.
And so it was great because she would come in and it was like, I got to just hang out with her like the whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like obviously I would do
Yeah.
my job, but
Of course.
yeah. So that was fun. So that was my last bottle service job. And I think it was a beautiful way to close it out because for bottle service, I knew that if I wanted to get serious about my career acting, that I needed to walk away. So that was for me. The place was closing, and it was either do I get another job as a bottle service waitress or do I just figure it out? And I left it alone, and instead I got a job at a music studio as an office manager, and they made music for commercials. I didn't get paid as much, but I loved it.
I bet.
It was just, it allowed for me to put more time into my auditions and really focus.
Regular working hours, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a 9 to 5, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what comes next? McDonald's was the biggest role you had so far?
Yeah, McDonald's was the biggest role. And then,
Now you're in the music studio.
yeah,
You're
music
still
studio, all the
auditioning.
things. Yeah,
And you're
auditioning.
still a daily at this time?
I'm still a daily at this time, yes. So where everything changed was we had something called pilot season. I don't know if it exists anymore because the industry has changed so much.
Yeah, it has.
But pilot season would start from like February to May, and it would just be nonstop auditions for pilots. So like this was a season that you wanted to like hustle. Like as an actor, auditions if you were lucky. I barely got any. So every pilot season for me was difficult because I'd be like, why am I not getting anything? I'd get one thing here, one thing there. And I remember I went to my agency. And mind you, at this point, I have a new agency who took a chance on me with no TV credits, just my commercial. And I love them. I'm still with them to this day.
Good.
Nicole and Milton and Caitlin, they took a chance on me. And they were like, you know what? I think you're a diamond in the rough. Let's just do this and see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah. And very, very grateful for that relationship. But they were straight up with me always, which was great. So I went into their office and I was like, hey, it's pilot season. What's going on? There's no auditions. Just want to see it. And they were like, honestly, Cherie, I'm so sorry. But if you're not on the list, you're not really getting opportunity. The list, there's a magical list in Hollywood, which is real. It's a list of actors that TV producers and directors are interested in. It's like the up and coming. So on this list, they're like, okay, well, they're the ones that are going to get the opportunities first. Sometimes it's straight offer. You don't even stand a chance because they already know who they want. And so I walked in, they were like, no auditions. And my mom was like, well, we're going to Mexico to our timeshare if you want to come meet us. I was like, you know what? I do. I want to get out of here. Like at this point, she was like, well, it's pilot season. And I'm like, fuck pilot season right now.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? And mind you, I'm a daily. So I should, even though I'm getting more auditions, it's still not happening.
What part of Mexico?
In Cancun.
Nice.
In Cancun. Yeah, just like a timeshare. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good one. But I basically go home and I get an audition the next day for the newsroom on HBO. And it's one line. It's a waitress role. And I had to say like a simple line. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right, hey, an audition, but I'm packing for Mexico. And also, this is a pretty cool audition regardless. I go to the audition and I see every ethnicity. So like they don't know what they want. Lots of girls. And I'm like, okay, I sign in and I didn't print it out. Usually I would print out my sides because it's one line. So I have a piece of paper with me. And instead of writing the line, I wrote, and so it is. And so it is. There was a book that I was reading at that time called How to Get Everything You Ever Wanted. And within this book, there were different chapters of life. And the first chapter was the Karma Mountain. And it said, before you welcome all the blessings into your life, you need to learn forgiveness. You need to learn how to forgive others, and you need to learn how to forgive yourself so that you can remove that block and allow everything to come into your life. So around that age, that's something that I was working on, was forgiveness for myself and forgiveness for others, because I knew that for me at that time, there was a lot of things that I held on to. And this book was something that I walked into a bookstore and I didn't know what to pick. And and then somebody was walking by. I was with my girlfriend and goes, you know what you could do? You could just close your eyes and then open your eyes. And the first book you see, you pick it out. So it was red and I picked out, and it was How to Get Everything You Ever Wanted. So I took it, I brought it home, and it talks about meditation and all these things that now I understand. At that time, I was like, I'll sit there. Like I would go forward and I was like, okay, so what's next? But one of the things that I loved was in the manifestation, when you want something, speak it, feel it, and then say, and so it is, and let it go and go on with your life. So that was something that a concept that I knew about, but I wasn't necessarily practicing because I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted to book something at the end of the day. That's it. But this one, for some reason, I was compelled to write, and so it is. So I go into the audition and I mess up the line. Like, I made up something different. It's one line. I had to say, and here's your chili charred beef skewer. I messed up the line completely. And the casting director looked at me, and I didn't mess it up or I stumbled. I just said something that wasn't the line. And she goes, well, that's not. And I was like, you know what? You're right. That's not the line. I go, I'm going to do it again. And she was like, yeah, okay. And I went to look at the piece of paper because I was like, what is the line again? And all I see is, so it is. And I look at the paper and I remember thinking to myself, the fuck, Cherie? You couldn't just write the damn line? So I was like, all right, whatever. I got this. I turned around. I did it again. I messed up the line again. I made something else up. And she goes, and mind you, she's got 30 girls waiting in the room. And she was like, okay. And I go, and she goes, it's fine. I got it. I go, okay, thank you. I leave. On the drive home, I'm like, I could say the line perfectly. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? So I'm hanging out with my girl that night and I'm just like, isn't this crazy? I had one line I couldn't. We're laughing about it. All good. Wake up the next morning. I'm at the bank and I get a call that I'm on a veil. On a veil means that you're considered as one of the top choices. And I'm like, no fucking way. So I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, yeah, we'll call you back. 10 minutes later, they dropped me. I was not one of the choices.
Okay.
But it happens
later.
that fast. But I was like, okay though. Hey, I was on a veil. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I looked at it as a positive
because it's not the line, it's your performance.
Yes. And then 30 minutes later, I get a call and my manager was like, you have 30 minutes to get to Gower Studio. Aaron Sorkin wants you to come in and read for the role of Chelsea, the new bartender at Hang Choose, the bar that they go to on the show. So I dropped everything. I drive to Gower Studios in Hollywood. I get there. I come, and the casting director is like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming in on such short notice. And I'm just like, she's so grateful. And I'm just like, thank you. What is happening? So I'm thinking other girls are going to come in. This is an audition that they're having. She hands me the sides and she's like, hey, so just work on it. And then whenever you're ready, come on in. So I took 5 minutes with it. I had 3 or 4 lines and I went in and I did great. I did the lines. I said my lines as is. And then she goes, great. So this shoots next Wednesday. Are you available next Wednesday? No, I'm not. I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. But sure, I'm available. Right?
What do you mean, you're lying to her?
Yeah. I'm available. Well, because I didn't think I
Oh, you didn't think you got it?
No. And also, I was waiting to walk out of the room and see a bunch of other girls in the waiting room. I didn't think anything of this. I didn't think, I was so used to rejection, so used to it. So much rejection that, to me, this was almost okay.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, thank you. But
next
also,
Wednesday.
yeah, but yeah, next, yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow, but I know how this goes. I'm not the one. You're going to give it to somebody else, and that's okay. And it just kind of the space I got into at that time in my life. And I'm driving home and I booked it. My first TV credit, my first TV show, The Newsroom. And I was like, wow. So I shot it. Amazing. Aaron Sorkin was like, I love how you made it your own. I messed up the line. He was like, you just have a natural quality about you. Yeah. Which was beautiful because I was like, also Aaron Sorkin is in the industry. I mean, wow. Yeah. So amazing, incredible opportunity. That night, I get an audition for Pretty Little Liars.
But did you cancel your Mexico trip?
Yeah. And my parents came down. And my parents came to see me instead.
Oh, nice. Yeah, everybody canceled.
So everybody canceled and they came to see me.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was beautiful. So it was a great thing. And then I get an audition for Pretty Little Liars. And my manager was like, well, I know you're getting off set, so you can say no. And I was like, I'm not going to say no. It's Pretty Little Liars. Why not? Sure. I memorize it. the audition, I think, is the next day. I go to the audition and I go on the wrong day.
No.
So I'm like, oh, and they're like, it's okay, you can sit. We'll audition you.
Okay,
We just
good.
got to do these guys. I was like, okay, go and do the audition. All of a sudden, I'm up for it. But they're doing a spinoff. So they're like, well, we want you to audition for this spinoff. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So I'm like, okay. I don't get the spinoff. I get Pretty Little Liars. So within 1 week, I get Newsroom and Pretty Little. I have no TV credits, and it's basically a catch-22. They don't care unless you have a TV credit. They're like, well, so for me, all of a sudden this happens. And then mind you, I booked a movie that Friday, like a little independent film. But like all of a sudden the momentum started going and everything was just like, oh my God, happening. Now it's happening as daily. So that was the only thing that always felt off. Not that I'm not proud to be a daily, but I was like, damn.
And how easy is it to just switch the name? Do all of your
Easy.
previous credits go away?
Yes, but because of IMDb, the way it works, I'm able to put also known as. So I have the credits. Yeah.
Very nice.
But all of a sudden I'm getting these opportunities and I have this momentum and I'm going on auditions and I'm literally just being considered for things and it's all beautiful and everything was great. I was and at that time I was in a really bad relationship with another actor who was dealing with his own struggles of just his own. He was just suffering a lot, and he was an alcoholic and drank a lot, and so he was also an actor whose career was doing great, but then all of a sudden it wasn't, and then mine was doing great. And so there was jealousy, and there was unfortunately like, there was a competition, which was, strange for me because I was like, what is happening? But I continued to just kind of focus on my stuff and he continued to just not like it. And unfortunately, within the midst of my momentum of everything, we had a really unfortunate domestic situation where I was up for a show called Banshee. And I was up for this lead role on Banshee. It was like a dream role. And I had flown out to New York to do the final test for it. And I came back and I was going to find out that Friday if I got it. And it was just one of those things that you're just like, this is life-changing. This is a life-changing role. And unfortunately, one morning, like he was always drinking. It got worse and worse and worse. And I tried to help him, but unfortunately, it just wasn't, something I could do. And one morning on the way to an audition that I got sent in for producers, it was like one of those sitcoms, like a big one. I can't even think of what it is anymore. He basically ended up throwing a phone at me and my entire, accused me of cheating, just kind of like the crazy drunk. And it's 9 a.m. Like I was just getting ready for my audition. And I remember the night before I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm going to focus. It's all good. And, he took my phone and I'm just like, what are you doing? I have to get ready for my audition. And he's like, you're cheating on me, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff went down. And he basically said to me, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be an actress. You don't deserve to basically threaten me and threaten to kill me and all this stuff, and ended up taking my phone and threw it, ended up hitting me. And before I knew it, everything blacked out. And I won't go into all the details, but it ended up being a really unfortunate situation where I ended up in an ambulance and my entire face was completely sliced open. My eye was like blood and all I was begging them was, please save my face. Please save my face. I'm an actress. Mind you, obviously, I'm also processing what just happened and all the things, but also an opportunity of a lifetime could be mine. And then all of a sudden this happens. And so I, because he was known at the time, he was famous enough, the police officers, I wanted to file all these things, but I was like, I knew how the media works in LA. And I was like, please don't sell this to TMZ. I just did not want that to be something, because I was like, this is going to ruin my entire life. I can't, please don't sell this to TMZ. So I begged them. And
you're begging the police?
I'm begging the police because the police officers in LA.
That's what they do?
Yeah, they do. They, like somebody gets arrested, they'll sell the mugshots or to TMZ and be like, oh, hey, so your little celebrity got arrested for this. And then all of a sudden you see that's why everybody knows everything of like, you know, it's like, oh, so they call and they're like, hey, so do you have a statement? So he was arrested for drunk driving and he ended up everywhere. And I was with him, but I'm not a big drinker. And obviously my name wasn't included. So it was like the media definitely is a little, you just got to be very aware. And so I just begged them and thankfully I was able to leave to New York. So my mom booked me a ticket and I came to New York and I didn't want to tell anybody what happened. So because I was a skateboarder too, also I'm a skateboarder. Yeah, guys taught me, my homies taught me how to skateboard to like hang with them because they'd always go skateboarding. I was like, I want to go skateboarding. So they taught me. And I just was decided that if anybody asked, I would say that I fell off my skateboard. Mind you, I flew to New York and I spent 3 months in my bedroom, depressed, going through the healing. I could barely open my eye. I was trying to go to a plastic surgeon to see what I could do. And they were like, there's nothing you can do really. I mean, you just have to take care of the scar. And eventually, maybe once it heals, you could do something, but the scar will always be there. And I've taken great care of the scar. So like, it's barely, I mean, you can see it a little bit, but I took really great care of it. And so
You flew back to New York to be with mom, I'm
back
assuming?
to be to my to be with my mom, to
Okay.
just be to leave everything.
Since
I
you're not
moved
working
everything
too.
out, and while all this is happening, I find out on Friday that I didn't get the job. And mind you, after this happens, I'm praying all of a sudden that I don't get the job. Like I went from this is a dream job to please God, don't let this be it,
Because you would have had to get out of it.
yeah, I would have had to say no. So the creator of the show wrote me and said, I just want to tell you, you did such an amazing job, but you're just too young. But we are so impressed with what you gave this character. So I just want to tell you that if you were a little bit older, this role would have been yours, and I'll keep you in mind for the future. And so that to me was like amazing, but also I'm never going to be able to act again. I'm never going to be like, in my mind, that's it. Like I can't, like it was crazy. I did not look like myself. So as I'm starting to heal, I started to help my mom with origami owl. That was like my way. I cut layers. So I wore my hair like this forever because I didn't want anybody to see it. And then my girls, over time, I finally started to tell them that finally when I was ready and it started to heal better and started to open my eye, I finally was honest and told them individually what had happened. And it ended up being the best summer of my life because of what I had gone through. I went home and I was with my girlfriends and I was here in New York and I got to just be surrounded by so much love and support that it helped me heal in a way that I don't think I would have been able to if I had stayed in LA. And so that was a beautiful thing. And then on top of it, the creator of the show wrote a role and called me and offered it to me 4 months later. It was a small role, but he was like, hey, I just wanted to call and offer it to you. It could be something, it could not. So I had 2 months after that call to continue to focus on healing this. So I remember I went to MAC. I found a makeup artist who helped me put something here to like make it not really seen. I did the show. And I was like, here, I thought I'd never be able to act again. And here I am on Banshees. So I was incredibly grateful for the opportunity. But I had so much fun in New York that I didn't want to go back to LA. And so every time I was supposed to go back, I would cancel my trip and cancel my trip. And I was like, I think I might move to New York again. And yeah, I just basically, my agents were like, you either come back or we have to drop you because we don't have representation in New York. So I chose to go. I chose to go back.
And what year is this? Where are we at now in the timeline?
2015, I believe, or 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure, but one
of those. Oh, yeah, I see guest starred on Cinemax's Banshee,
Yeah.
2014, 2015.
Yeah, well, I ended up doing a reoccurring, so I shot for 2 more episodes the following year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Next on the timeline is This Side of Her.
Oh, that was.
Am I moving too fast?
No, not at all. No, it's perfect. That was when I moved back. So when I moved back, obviously this and not speaking about it, but talking to my friends, my mom had mentioned this organization called No More, which is a domestic violence organization. And she was like, you know, they're doing a really beautiful thing where people tell their stories through this site and share it with others if you want to. And I wasn't ready yet to even talk about it.
It's a website.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, they had a site.
Okay.
So No More had a website and they had entries where people could anonymously or write their name, write their story about their domestic violence situation and share it with others as a way of helping others heal and helping you heal as well. So I ended up eventually writing and sharing my story, which led me on CNN. And the more, like, it was crazy, the whole situation. But this documentary, this woman I had worked with, I was doing this documentary, The Side of Her. And so she asked me to just be on it as myself, talking about my experiences as a woman. And so I briefly talked about the situation because she had asked me, so what makes you feel beautiful? And I was dealing with so much insecurity of not feeling beautiful because of this. And so it made me like, I broke, like all of a sudden I broke down, like, and she was like, what? I just asked her, beautiful, but meanwhile, I started to open up a little bit. But just to backtrack real quick, just the way the universe works, while I was in New York that summer, I was helping my mom with Origami Owl, and there was a young girl that she was working with, and who went to White Plains High School. And I was like, so how's your summer going, or your year? She goes, oh, we just went to go see a play in the city called Violet. And I go, oh, what is it about? And she goes, it's about a woman who, when she's younger, ends up with a facial scar, and she ends up going on a journey to find a priest to remove it. And I was like, what? So my mom and I went to go see it, and Sutton Foster was in it. It was only that summer that it played. And by the end of it, I mean, we're bawling, but it was beautiful because the woman gets a facial scar from her father when she's young, who was an alcoholic. Not the same, and so she lives her whole life. And in the play, and she never has a scar, but you imagine it's there, and she wears her hair like this, always. And she's always insecure, and that's how I was feeling. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm an actor, my face, what am I going to do?
Absolutely.
But she goes on a journey. She meets these two men. She finds the priest that's supposed to remove it. He prays over her. He removes it. She comes out of there. She moves her hair back. She's existing in life with people and just like, and then she walks by a mirror and she sees it and it's still there. And she's like, what? So she goes back to the priest and she's like, I thought you said you were going to remove it. And he goes, no. I'm helping you find forgiveness, and you have to find forgiveness for him and for yourself, and learn to accept it as a part of you. So like, he prayed over her, but she thought, and so she realized it went deeper. She had to find forgiveness for her father, and learn how to live with her scar. And it was so beautiful and profound that after that day, I didn't wear my hair over my face. Wow. And I saw it as the universe being like, you're going to be okay. And like,
what are the odds?
What are the odds? What are the odds? Yeah. So moving back to LA, it was just like, I had so much within that year, within that 7 months, however long it was that I spent in New York, changed everything and just gave me so much love and so much life and so much support. Wow. And so many lessons that it allowed for me to continue to move forward.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really
right?
Like that. Yeah. That's like one of those inspirational stories. Like that's
like, what are the chances, right?
That's wild.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So this side of her, you get back to LA and this is your first role? Or your first
this was a documentary.
Okay.
So this was a documentary. I get back to LA, I do this documentary, and then I decide to kind of go back into everything. And within that time of my healing, the ex who had done that situation had moved out of the state. And so he had gone into his own life. And
so you felt even better.
Yeah, even better. But then I go back and then all of a sudden people are like, well, what happened? And this and that. And I always kept it very...
I fell off a skateboard. Yeah. I hung out with my mom and I came back.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. But as time went on, people started to find out because I guess that he went around and apologized to my agents for it. But like, he just had his own sickness that he was dealing with. And now he's passed on. He passed about 2 years ago from alcohol. Yeah. And unfortunately, but when I found out too, I was like, I was at peace because I had found forgiveness with ayahuasca. I had started sitting with ayahuasca, which came into my life.
Let's talk about that. I love psychedelics. Okay, I'm big on that.
Yeah. So for me, growing up, I mean, I always enjoyed shrooms. I always had my little trips with my girlfriend or my homies, and they'd always be fun, and little tidbits of like life stuff would come through, but it was just always a lot of fun.
When you do it with friends, it's
exactly.
It's a different experience.
It's a different experience, and I had a couple of moments where I was like, oof, like very profound. But ayahuasca, so I moved back and I start integrating myself back into life. I start kind of just figuring it all out. And auditioning, and like auditions, I'm getting opportunities because of my credits, but I'm still daily. And so I met my now husband, but we were dating, and he had mentioned ayahuasca. I went in the same week. one of my homies mentioned ayahuasca, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like, what is this? So I decided to look into it a little bit, and I go, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And always thought about it. And then, well, they say it's the call that when ayahuasca starts getting mentioned that like
Yeah.
eventually. And so I was presented with opportunity to sit with the medicine, but I said no, I wasn't ready yet. And
In
then,
California?
in
Nice.
California. So it's a shaman that comes from Colombia, and he
Nice.
brings the medicine, and he just facilitates like a night. It's like a big slumber party with a bunch of adults, and you just drink the medicine and you do the work. So the following year was about to be my birthday, and Banshee had called me back for 2 more episodes. So I was
Nice.
grateful for that. It was about to be my birthday. I forget how old I was going to be. And ayahuasca had presented itself again. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready this time. So it was 2 nights, and I chose 1 night because it's, a little bit of money. But I was like, okay, I did the diet. So you do a very clean diet. And
no meat, no oils, no alcohol, no drugs.
no pork.
I think bananas are good on it.
Yeah, bananas. So no citrus. There's certain things that don't mesh well with the medicine. And so I just did the diet. I committed. And I went and I sat with the medicine. And my now husband at the time, we were dating for a while. We were in an open relationship. And then he ended things with me because he wanted to continue to see other girls, but really he was falling in love with me. But he didn't know. And I was cool with the open relationship because I was like, I don't need a boyfriend now, especially after everything I went through. But he ended things with me. And then that weekend we ended up at the same ayahuasca ceremony. I know, life, the way it is. And so, but like we were cool. So we ended up at the ceremony at his friend Makad's house, because you don't find out the location until the day before. They're like, okay, this is the location. And his friend Makad is on Law and Order. And funny enough, he's the one that married us at Burning Man. But it's at his house. And so I show up and I'm like, okay. And I see him and I was like, it's all good. I'm here for me. I'm here to work on me. And I didn't necessarily go into it with anything. Like, I didn't go into it being like, well, I want to work on this or that. I just thought, all right, I'm ready. I don't really know what to expect. And I heard have no expectations, just go open. So I went open. I sat that first night. And prior to that, how we talked about how I always had this wall. I was always very tough. I never allowed myself to cry, to be vulnerable. I just pick up and keep going. Like, there's no time to be sad. We got to keep moving. We got to hustle. We got to make things happen. And so the moments that I did have where I allowed myself to cry throughout life were very short. I'd cry and then I'd suck it up and I'd be like, okay, Cherie, let's just keep going. And so I cried for 2 hours, maybe. I don't know. Time doesn't exist. But within the ceremony, I cried and I cried because I never allowed myself to cry. And for the first time in my life, I cried over everything I never cried over. And a little thing came up about my dad and some childhood stuff and like just a little bit. And now I don't know how much you know about ayahuasca, but
I hear it brings up memories you don't remember right now.
Yeah, so basically the medicine is a medicine of forgiveness and compassion, and it shows you yourself. It puts you in front of yourself, and it shows you the things that you need to work on, the things you need to forgive, let go, love, and just all the things. So it's a medicine. It really is. It's a beautiful medicine, a sacred medicine. And I have so much respect and so much just
Grandmother
gratitude.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, grandma.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And so I drank I committed to everything. And so when I drank the medicine, you drink, and the shaman's there to facilitate, to make sure you're good. And, you kind of just sit with yourself and whatever comes up, whether it's visions, a voice, or just a feeling, just knowing. And for me, it was crying. And then the next morning, you wake up or whatever, because it's a whole night thing. And I was like, okay, wow, man, fuck, I cried. I really cried. I guess that I feel better. I feel like not so heavy. And my now husband at the time was like, are you going to come back for the second night? And we were cool, right? And I was like, no. I'm good. I think this was good enough for me.
It was going to be one more ayahuasca?
Yeah, there was going to be one more night. It was 2
Okay.
nights. Usually people sit both nights. I wanted one. And he was like, and also it cost some money. And, I was like, I'm good. He was like, I'll buy it for you. I was like, you don't have to do that. He was like, I think you should sit another night. And I was like, I'm good, right? Like, I'm good. Then the shaman came over and he was talking to me. And he was just like, so are you going to sit another night? And I was like, no. He goes, I think it would be really good if you sat another night for you, especially what you did. You could go deeper. And so I went home and I'm like, I'm going to think about it. And I decided to go back. Wow. That night changed my life forever. I went back. I sat with the medicine. Things were coming up, right? You drink the cup. And I go outside at one point because it was like in a mansion setting, or at least mansion because he had a big house, And I went outside and I sat down and I'm looking up at the moon. And I'm just taking deep breaths, and all of a sudden I feel this pain in here, like sharp pain. And I'm like, ah. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, oh my God, like something's happening. And a flash of the pain was equivalent to what this was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my life. And I can't describe the pain, but I know what it is. But I felt it here. And for a moment I thought, but then I didn't think what that was in relation to. And it started getting worse. Felt like somebody was turning my like insides. So I was like, I have to get inside. I have to get to the shaman because something's happening. As I'm walking, my body starts breaking down, and he basically comes to get me. And I'm like going into just like pain. Like I'm like all of a sudden crying because it hurts so much. And I'm like, what's happening? What is this? And he drinks the medicine with you. So the medicine speaks to him. And he grabbed me and he whispered in my ear and he said, you need to forgive him. You need to set yourself free. And in my head, I was like, what? Like, first of all, I thought, like, I did not think this was in relation to the medicine. I thought something else was happening. And I was like, what? And he goes, you need to forgive him. Until you forgive him, you will always be carrying this weight and this pain. You need to set yourself free. And I just said back, he doesn't deserve forgiveness. And then the pain went, whew, and then I got sent, and then I got brought back to my bed. They were doing like these icaros and like just all these things, like trying to heal. They put this, a blanket, like I was screaming in pain, like how bad it was. And I was like, it was intense. And they came over, and with all the icaros and the medicine and all the things of what it was, I decided to start taking my deep breaths. And I was like, okay, all right. And then my mind was like, all right, forgiveness, right? I need to forgive him. And I was like, no. So I fought with myself in my head. And I was like, no, he doesn't deserve forgiveness. Fuck that. The pain got worse. And I was like, okay. And I was like, fine, I forgive him. The pain got worse. I didn't forgive him. I was just saying.
You're just saying it.
So I was arguing with myself, going back and forth. And then the beautiful thing about that was that somehow I started to go back to just the relationship when it started and what it was and the humans that fell in love and just what this was. And, because it's really in life, that's all we want is to be loved and to love and all the things. And he had a sickness. He was dealing with something that was beyond me that I could have never helped him with. And so I started to go to the center of what it was, which was love, and that I couldn't help him. And so with all of that, I started to just find this forgiveness for him. And then I started to find forgiveness for myself. And it went both ways, It wasn't just like, oh, well, it's not like I was innocent, and even though I was a good girlfriend, but still, maybe I was a bitch, maybe this and that, whatever it was. And I chose to forgive. And I chose to come from a place of love. And I remember in the medicine, I was like, you know what? We loved each other. And I don't want to carry this anymore. I don't need to carry this anymore. This doesn't belong to me. I forgive you. And I found true forgiveness, and it started to loosen up. And it was like, wild. And then it went away. And I laid there with tears in my eyes and gratitude and forgiveness. And I woke up that next morning and I was like, oh my God, I forgive him. And to this day, because of that, I found forgiveness that I don't think I would have ever been able to find otherwise, through therapy, through nothing. I would have lived my whole life carrying this. And instead, I found forgiveness because of the beautiful medicine that ayahuasca is. And it allowed for me to welcome all of these beautiful blessings into my life because of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I never heard of a physical pain during
and then ayahuasca was a big part of my life for about 8 years until I had my son. Like, even I had an ayahuasca experience that showed me from the age of 5 to 9. And that was, like I said, I didn't realize, and it showed me my mom's point of view. And it showed me what she was going through. And I remember I called her and I said, I just want to say thank you. I never said thank you for what you did for me, for like holding it down and for the sacrifices. And she was like, what? Because she knew I was sitting with ayahuasca. She was like, oh my God, Cherie, these drugs again. And I was like, it's not a drug, Mom. It's a medicine. And after the certain things that would come up, trauma that I experienced that was coming up, she started to really be like, that came up, and things that she didn't, it was just like all of a sudden, all of these things were coming up, and I was able to work through a lot.
That's
so
amazing.
Beautiful, yeah.
The book that you got from the Red Book.
Yeah, I still have it.
You said you revisited it and then it made more sense to you? Was that before or after ayahuasca? Because you mentioned the book mentioned a lot about
after.
That makes sense.
After, yeah.
That's
because
why,
then I got
really
into
understood.
meditation. Then I got
Yeah.
into just checking in with myself. Then I started to take care of myself, and I started to just understand what self-love, like I started to really just be more aware, and also spiritually too. It opened my eyes. Like ayahuasca brought me closer to God, you know, because for a
Absolutely.
while I grew up Catholic, and then I moved out here and all this stuff was going on, and I was like, does God really exist? And it brought me just a different understanding. And so I pray every day. I talk to my guardian angels every day, you know, like I say grace over my, you know, like I was saying grace over food, and somebody was like, wow, I haven't seen anybody do that in a while. And I was like, always, I'm always great. I'm always, every day I wake up, I go to work. Thank you, God, for this opportunity. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful, so blessed. Yeah.
That plant medicine is amazing.
It's beautiful.
I have yet to do it. I've done 5-MeO DMT.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I haven't, but I've heard. Yeah,
that one's powerful. Yeah, but that one's not a journey. It's just a quick, impactful thing.
Oh, is
it's like a brain reset.
Oh, okay.
My experience is about 5 minutes. The longest is about 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
very
impactful.
impactful.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca's what, like 6-8 hours, something like that.
Yeah, like we drank a cup at 11 at night, and then at 5 in the morning it closes. And it also depends on how many cups you drink. Like I just drank one. Also, the taste it comes from the earth, you know. It's like back in the day, the Amazons, they figured out that if you take this branch from this tree and this leaf from this tree, put it together, it brings you the medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Beautiful. Yeah, really right? Is. Wild. Love it.
Yeah. I agree. So ayahuasca hits. Mm-hmm. This is 2016, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
And then marriage.
Yeah.
August 31st, 2017.
Yeah, Burning Man.
Yeah. Why Burning Man?
I never believed in marriage, and I never wanted to get married. I never saw myself getting married. I saw myself being with someone and having a kid and all that stuff, but marriage wasn't something in my life that was a strong influence for me to want to see that for myself. And so when my husband proposed to me, I love him so much. He's great. He proposed, and I was like, oh, I love you, but we don't have to get married. Like, we don't have to do all that, you know? Like we're good. Like, I was content with just going to the jungle and having the shaman marry us. I was like, we could do a spiritual ceremony. We don't have to do the paperwork. And of course, I'm my mom's only daughter. So I came to New York, and she took me to castles. She took me all over Westchester to look at every wedding venue, and was like, well, just entertain the idea. And of course, every interview or whatever that we went on, they would say how much something was. And I was like, nope. And I was like, I'd rather travel the world. I'd rather do this. I'm good. I was like, they were like, well, it costs this for flowers. I don't even want flowers. You know, like all these things. And so I said no. And then a friend had mentioned to my son's godfather, actually, was like, well, if Cherie feels that way, then why don't you guys just get married at Burning Man? I had never been to Burning Man. So for me, I had the perception of Burning Man being a bunch of naked hippies doing drugs, which, yes, that does happen. But it's like, right. So, but it's more than that. It's beautiful. And so Sean came home. He said that to me. And I was like, what? And I was like, Burning Man, stupid. And I Googled it. And the first article that came up was a Vogue article about this couple that actually had done a wedding. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And then I started to see more weddings, and I started to see the art installations. And I was like, hold on, what is Burning Man actually? And I looked into it, and I go, wow, this is beautiful. This is insane. This is unique. And then I had like this little feeling that my girl said that you would have when you see the venue. And I was like, you know what? I'll get married at Burning Man. Why not? We don't have to do like the whole thing and just go an art installation, you know, like this seems like something I would experience, or I would love to experience. And so the tickets, people from all around the world go. When you enter the lottery to get it, like your name, the little man runs across the screen, and only certain many people get the tickets. And then there's a second round. But basically it's kind of hard to get tickets. And I thought, if I don't get tickets within this round, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not going to do some last minute stuff. My little man ran across that fucking screen, and I got those tickets. So I was like, okay, it's meant to be. So we had 3 months to prepare. I was going to bring my parents. Thank God I didn't, because that's a lot. And it's also our first time. So while I'm trying to figure out the survival stuff of Burning Man, bringing enough water, food, all the things, you bring everything you need to survive. And then an RV and all this stuff, I'm also figuring out like, well, what am I going to wear? What do I want to do? What do I want? I had no videographer, no cake, nothing. My wedding dress, I ended up putting together lingerie. It's on my Instagram. Even my mom was like, but I wanted to dress as Princess Jasmine, like esque for my wedding, but that didn't work out. So I went with this lingerie piece and this beautiful thing that I created. And we went to Burning Man. I learned how to ride a bike for Burning Man because that's how you get around. And we went early to go build. Like everything, the city starts as nothing. It's just dust, and then everything gets built. Burning Man's insane. It's like you enter a portal into a different dimension. You don't need drugs. The place in itself, it's like being a kid again. The art evokes all these feelings in you. I mean, there were things that I saw that made me cry, and I was like, why am I crying? What is happening? There was beautiful people that I met. And before that too, I was always very closed off, which is interesting. Now, everyone that knows me as this sweet, like I call everyone love. I don't know where that came from. I'm just like, and not that I'm not sweet, but back before ayahuasca, before all this, I was always very closed off. Like, you get to know me, then I show my personality. It's just the way I grew up in New York. I was like, I don't know, like I wasn't overly nice. I wasn't like hi, just be like hi. There was no hugs, there was no this. And so Burning Man took me out of my comfort zone because everybody wants a hug. Everybody's like, hey, and I'm just like, everyone's too nice. This is too much. Like you guys need to chill. But it was a beautiful experience, and we chose the art installation. It was a 70-foot flower tower that shot fire from the top of it, and it represented leaving behind old wounds and old hurt and heartbreak and entering a new chapter of your life. And so we chose Thursday at sunset, which ended up being August 31st. And we let all our friends know, and we're like, that came. So a lot of my homies came.
Nice.
Yeah, which is great because they also wanted to experience Burning Man. And like every day, Cherie, this is insane. What is happening? Like everything you could imagine. And I'm like, oh my God, it was amazing. And so we chose this, and we went and we chose this flower tower. But I still wanted him to not see what I was wearing. So I went behind an art car, and I changed, and I like did my little gems and, helped. And as I'm getting ready to kind of just come out, my girlfriend comes around the corner and goes, oh my God, Ari's not here. Ari was the officiant that was supposed to marry us. We ended up doing the paperwork because of health insurance and stuff. And I was like, all right, whatever, we'll do it. We're getting married at Burning Man, whatever. All good. Like now, the perception I had of marriage, like it's a little different here. He wasn't there. And he was supposed to be there.
Oh, man.
And so Sean turned to his friend Makad, the one whose house and said, you got to marry us. And Makad's like, what? And he was like, I'm not an officiant. He was like, who cares? Because even when she said that to me, she was like, he's not here yet. I go, I don't care. I don't believe in this paperwork shit anyways. I'm going to walk out there anyways. So as I walk out, the sun set, and he married us. He did what he did. We did our little vows. And what's funny is this ring right here, we got it off Melrose for $30. That was our Burning Man ring. And we had our wedding, and my friend Paul, my homie, ended up taking pictures on his nice camera. So I got pictures. My other friend ended up taking a video. So I had this dope little wedding video. An art car appeared playing the violin.
Wow.
Right as we finished our marriage, our wedding. And then that night we just went art car hopping and just had so much fun for the rest of the time. But what's crazy is that the guy that was supposed to marry us didn't show up because he was on a dragon art car with Diplo playing the guitar for him, and he was on acid. Wow. So he completely missed our wedding. But it was fine. It was just meant to be that way. So Burning Man was a wild situation in itself. Amazing, beautiful. And then,
Wow.
And then life. Yeah. And then
That's
life.
incredible.
Yeah.
So what's life after marriage? Right back to LA to get to work?
Well, after LA, but when we came back to LA, we were living in a place that we were spending so much money. And Burning Man is the kind of place that makes you look at everything and realize what matters and what doesn't matter because of everything that it just brings up and evokes with you with the art and the people, that I was like, we're throwing money away, living in this place for what? And so we, within 10 days, packed everything up and moved and decided to pack up our luggage and our dog. And we came to LA. We came to New York.
No way. Oh, nice.
We came for a month because I considered moving back to New York. And I was like, I love New York. Maybe we'll move to New York. And he booked a movie. So I was here while he was booking that. And he was having a successful time in New York City, integrating into the industry. I was not. I just wasn't. Oh, and also, mind you, I went back to Jimenez. Cut to when I came back from New York after everything had happened. My manager and I parted ways. There was just differences that we had. She was great, but it was just certain things that she was doing that I just didn't agree with. And I felt like, and I was very loyal. I thought I was going to be with her forever. But it was a good decision for me to part ways. And the first thing I did was go back to Jimenez.
Perfect.
Because I was like, you know what? I think this is my chance. Like, I'm grateful for Daily and all it did for me, but like, I'm ready to go back. And then the auditions kind of dwindled. Yeah, which is funny. And I was like, of course.
Of
So
course.
yeah. So then I came back to New York and I had a difficult time. He had a great time. And then after that, we went back to LA for a movie premiere that he had. And then he booked a movie in India. And so he went to India for 2 months. I went for a month. India changed my life. It was a culture shock. It broke my heart. And it was also one of the most beautiful places I had ever been. So that was a life-changing experience in a lot of ways for the way that I carry myself and the way that I just am. Like, I went there and I was like, oh, I want this beautiful sari and I wanted just all these colors and these gowns. And the first thing I saw off the plane were these children and these babies. And I remember that night they were draping me in these beautiful saris. And I was like, what am I doing? What the hell is this? I don't want this. So instead I fed everyone that I could while I was there. And then one of the wardrobe guys on his show ended up making me this beautiful piece at the end of it.
Nice.
But that was life-changing. But then I came back to LA and I was like, all right, let's try again. Let's see what happens. Like, fuck, like, let's see what happens. And then that's when everything changed. All of a sudden the industry switched and I was given opportunities and auditions for Latina roles that were more than just the mistress and the best friend and this and that. And I started auditioning for these great opportunities and I started getting close to getting these things. And I started to grow in these relationships with these casting directors, which was more important almost than getting the job, even though the job is great.
It's the networking.
Truly, it truly is. And over time, and so that for me was beautiful because I was on the other end of the industry that I had never been on. Even with booking all these jobs, I was Jimenez now. So this was me going into it as me, authentically me. And I just started, the universe, the industry opened up for me in such a beautiful way. And I ended up with my manager that I'm with now, who's amazing. And then I would just book something here. I did a Kia commercial. I did a Verizon commercial. After Banshee, I did NCIS. I played a senator.
That's the one I have next on my list. That was
played
2021.
A senator.
Yeah,
which, I was like, me play a senator? Yes, please. And so I did that. And around that time, I was up for other opportunities that I wanted that I didn't get. Taylor Sheridan was calling me a lot for Yellowstone. And so because of my nationality, I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican, Italian, Sicilian, and Taino, which is the Native American, but the Puerto Rican. I'm not Native American in the sense of like a tribe. And so I was getting called in for a lot of Native American roles. And for me, if there's one thing I will not do is I will not take an opportunity away from a native, like for me, I'm not going to pretend that I'm something that I'm not. And I have so much respect that I would say no. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I think that you need to give this opportunity to an actual Native American, even though I have all this. And so, I would audition and things were great. And all of a sudden, and also too, after getting married, Sean wanted a kid. And I said, no, I wasn't ready yet. And I knew I wanted one, but not yet, because I was so focused on my career that I was like, if I'm not the lead of a show, then having a kid is going to derail me and set me back, especially with the way the industry was then. And so I had this fear, but ayahuasca being a part of my life, one of the things that came up on one ceremony was the fear of being a mother and a working actor. And so the medicine helped me move through that. And it showed me on set holding a baby. And it basically was like, you're going to be just fine. But I still wasn't ready to be a mother until I went to Colombia. And so I went to Colombia and I sat with the medicine there. So he would come to New York, well, he also comes to New York too, but he would come to LA and then he has a farm and his family, it's beautiful in Colombia. And so I decided I'm going to go sit with the medicine there. And 4 ceremonies, which is for me a lot, but they're all spaced out. And so things were coming up in these ceremonies.
Was it 7 days, 2 weeks?
I was there for about 8 days.
Okay.
And then we would have, we would just explore the land and just kind of just be with each other. And then we'd sit one night, sit the second night, and then have a break and then sit again and sit again. And it's beautiful being on the land and just where the medicine came from and everything. And so I had every ceremony, I gained something, and one of them I went into a past life, I guess, another life where I was from the beginning of time and the earth. And it just reconnected me to the importance of taking care of the earth and taking care of ourselves and just being grateful for everything that we have, for, just
Being
life,
alive.
just being alive, just being alive. And so cut to the last night, I had another pain right there,
No
right?
way.
Another pain. Yeah, I hadn't had one in a minute. Another pain. And I'm like in front of the Virgin Mary. There was a Virgin Mary. And I'm like, you purge on the medicine, which means that you're eliminating. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to puke. I was like, nobody wants to puke at the end of the day.
It's part of ayahuasca.
But it's beautiful because you're removing all the things that don't serve you, the toxicity, the negativity, all the things that come into you. And so for me, I was in front of Virgin Mary and I was crying and I was in pain, and the women came and they were around me, and one of them came and she was a helper, and she was like, you have these self-limiting beliefs that were coming up. It was every time I was rejected. I never cried. Every time I didn't get anything, I was like, it's not meant for me. It was meant for her. I always had a really beautiful outlook on it, like, it's okay. It's just not my time. It's her time. And I'm happy for her, like, genuinely.
But that's the way it's supposed to be, though.
Of course, yeah. And that's just the way it was. And so, but I never acknowledged, like, again, the crying, actually, how much it actually did hurt and weigh on me being rejected. So much. And so I cried over that. And I cried over the self-limiting beliefs of being told that I was too skinny and that I wasn't the one, of, being dropped by my agency, by not being good enough. Everything came up. And she said to me, you need to forgive and let go and just like understand that you are enough, you are light, you are everything, so that you can make room for a baby one day.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so I worked through it. And then I went down afterwards and I sat by the fire where everyone's playing music and just, like I had gone through the depths of hell. And then I'm just sitting here, and Sean, my husband, was playing the harmonica. And within him playing the harmonica, the medicine was like, you're ready to be a mother.
Wow.
And so I turned to him and I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to have a baby. And he cried and knew, because, he'd been waiting. And then I was like, okay. But I knew too that obviously being a woman, that could mean a year, that could mean help, that could mean anything. And so I was just like, whatever that means, it means. And I'm not going to fear my career. It'll be there. It's going to be fine. And so I came back, and then we got pregnant 3 months later. And it was the first time I walked away from acting ever since. I basically done it, other than high school. Well, I stopped auditioning
you're taking a complete
break. No auditions, nothing. I was like, okay. So, and it was so nice. It was so nice to like not audition, not to learn lines, and to just be and like be a mother and work through my own stuff. And so, I just like started to work through everything. And at that time too, I worked with an African medicine woman. One of my son's godmothers is also an African medicine woman. She's a go-go. And there's a bunch of African medicine women that we have met through ayahuasca ceremony. Beautiful. And they work with the ancestors, and they work with just healing and all these beautiful things. And so I worked with one of them.
Do they use any medicine?
No, they use herbs and flowers. And she basically...
You're not ingesting anything?
No, nothing. I wasn't ingesting anything. And so I decided to do an ancestral divination with her. It's what it's called. Because when I was in Colombia, I had channeled an ancestor, a past life, something that came up, and I didn't know what to make of it because I had never had anything come up like that. And so I heard that she was somebody who knew that world, and I spoke to her about it, and she goes, we could do an ancestral divination one day. And so
what is that exactly?
An ancestral divination is a reading that you get from an African medicine woman. And basically, I mean, it's crazy, but I guess there's a movie too where it's like a reading where she has a bunch of stones and she throws the stones and she can read sticks and stones and little things, and it'll give you a reading on your life. Yeah, it's like not tarot reading, because I don't do those. There's certain things I don't mess with. But this was beautiful, also with the medicine. And so she gave me an ancestral divination, and she was talking about different parts of my life. And it was beautiful because one thing she said was, your ancestors are so proud of you for fulfilling your purpose and choosing to become mother. Like, this is a beautiful thing that you're doing. Also, your ancestors, it's basically like messages from your ancestors, are proud of the relationship you have with your mother. You have a beautiful relationship with her. And then my father came up, and she went, she's like, you have an open door of blessings right here. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, it's open. Usually it's closed. It's open. But standing in front of that door of blessings is this weight that you're carrying of your father. There's depression there. And I was like, what? And, I mean, as I got older, I reconnected with him at one point. I forgave him when I was working through the forgiveness, the karma mountain of life. And the relationship was always not, it wasn't really a relationship. And I didn't expect anything much, but, there was little communication here and there, but there was disappointment. There was continued disappointment. And so for me, it was, do I continue wanting a relationship or do I just close that door? I chose to close that door for myself, for my own peace of mind, with forgiveness and love, but just, it's better for me this way. And so for that, but at that time that I wasn't in that space until she said that. She was like, you want to work through this, and then she said, wow, you're in the deep end of the ocean, the blackest part of the ocean. And you have to find trust in the unknown and know that everything's going to work out. She goes, you have such a beautiful future, but you're not going to get that until you move and find forgiveness and work through these things and work through the depression that you're feeling and the sadness. And so pregnant too, and also being a mother, it's like I want to, everything that I feel, my baby feels. So I meditate every day. I really just centered myself. I listened to angel music and sound waves every day. Like everything changed because I love hip hop and rap, but I decided to kind of just change the vibration of what I was just putting into myself, the food I ate. I really took care of myself and everything. And so I took care of my mental, and it was just so beautiful because she gave me so much insight into just a lot of things that I was feeling. And I had a wild dream at that time about wanting to go here and go into this chaos. But then there was an orb filled with rainbows. And I still to this day, I've never had this dream. And I wanted to go in the rainbow, but I had all this going on. And it was like, just go. Just go, let go and go. And that to her, because they also interpret dreams. So I was dreaming a lot. And then things came up and so that was a beautiful thing because I feel like it put me on a really beautiful journey into just the acceptance of what was, and also motherhood and walking away from the industry and trusting. Like there was just trust. I was like, I just need to trust. And also working through that sadness that I felt. And so I did. I worked through all of it while I was pregnant. And what's so beautiful is that while I was pregnant, I was still getting called in for certain auditions where my manager would be like, I know you're saying no, but they called you in for this audition. They specifically requested you. I just wanted you to know. And I was like, well, hey, as I got my belly, and I was like, well, that's a great thing. That's a good sign from the universe that like it's going to be there when I'm ready. Then I had my baby and I realized I'm not getting back into the industry for a minute. I'm going to focus on being a mother. It's just my husband and I. My parents live in New York. His parents live in Texas, Ohio. And so 6 weeks after I had my baby, a director that I had worked with in a movie prior, which I guess we didn't talk about it, called Lost Girls, I played a social worker and human trafficking survivor. Very special movie.
That's deep.
Yeah, very deep. Deepest role. I remember when I read the script, I go, whoever gets this. Because they're working over them, and I got it. And it opened my eyes to a whole world that I knew nothing about. And it took me outside of just all the bullshit and all the things that I was carrying and stressing about, and really took me into this different aspect. Like I would come home from set and I would cry because of just how heavy it was, and I had to be the strong one in the movie to help these young women integrate back into life. And I was playing a real character of a woman who existed. So it was a beautiful experience. That director and I have a very close relationship. She wrote me into her movie, Maya, where I play the same character. And I had just had my baby. And I told my agents, I'm not getting back into acting yet. And they were like, whatever you need, which is great. And I was like, okay. And she wrote me in, and I was, as an actor, that is an honor.
Absolutely.
An honor. So I said, look, I'm not really trying to get back, but you know what? I just have my baby, and and she said, I'll get you in and out.
Nice.
And I said, okay. She got me in and out. So I did it for her. I was like, I'll do this for you. And it was beautiful to be on set. And I was like, wow, look at this. And then I stepped off and I was like, okay, I'm not ready yet. And my agents were like, so you're not ready? They were like, okay, Cherie. And I was like, okay, And then auditions would come in. I would say no. And then probably like 7 months later, I get an audition for a movie called Guns and Moses. It was Man in a Long Black Coat, the movie that just came out that I did. And I said, it was one paragraph of like a little monologue. And I was like, I'm a little bored. You know, in the sense of like, I would like to audition, like why not? Just to do something, just to work, just to get my creative juices flowing. And so I said, yes, I'll do the audition. I did the audition, didn't think anything of it, got a call back, and I do a producer meeting, and basically I get it. And not only do I get it, but I thought I was just like going to be this little Spanish woman married to a nice Jewish man. It's just a movie about this rabbi fighting back and protecting his people, and somebody dies and blah, 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 like a murder mystery. like don't know anything about it. This movie's badass, first of all. It's so fucking good. My role is amazing. It's a supporting role. Not only that, the first day I show up on set, Dermot Mulroney, Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, I'm working with big, I remember being like, where am I? What is happening? Like, I thought this was like a little film, and my character is in feathers and boas and heels and stilettos. And I'm like, here, I thought I was going to be in like a little, you know, like a little covered up thing, you know, like, hola, just like speaking in my Spanish accent. But no, it was an incredible film and a beautiful message. And I remember when I booked it, I was like, oh no, I didn't think I was going to book this. And I don't know if I'm ready, but obviously I'm ready. Meanwhile, I had my son and I was breastfeeding, and he came on set every single day I was on set because he wouldn't take a bottle. So in between shots, I'm breastfeeding him, learning my lines. He's living in the trailer, basically my husband, and I'm shooting the scene back and forth, and I'm feeding him until he goes to bed. And then I come home at 4 a.m. just in time to feed him again. So that was a wild situation, but the best part about it was how supported I was as a mother. They were so incredible that I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. I always had this fear. And on top of it, my ayahuasca vision came true. I was outside of a trailer holding my son in a fake fur coat. I have a picture of it on my Instagram because I looked at Sean and I go, oh my God, this is my vision. Like, what are the chances? So I thought that was a beautiful thing. And then after that, I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Not ready for what?
To get back in.
Okay.
Because of how much physically, like with breastfeeding as a woman,
100%.
It's draining, you know, and it was a lot and it was beautiful, but I thought I'm not ready yet. So I stepped away again, and auditions would come in and, you know, whatever, I would look and be like, okay, but I'm not ready yet. And then the strike happened in LA, basically, like actors and writers. And, you know, that was pretty serious because there's just a lot that we're not taking care of. And the writers, you know, I mean, that's without the writers, what do we have?
What was it, mainly AI? That was the big issue with that?
No, it wasn't yet. I mean, I think there was an idea of it coming through, but I think it's just they weren't getting the benefits. They weren't getting the respect. There was just a lot going on, and they wanted their rights. They wanted to be respected. They wanted to be taken care of. They want to be able to support their families and get paid enough, you know, like to survive. Because at the end of the day, as a creative, once you finish a job, you're unemployed again. Yeah. You're just constantly unemployed. Like, you do a great job, but then, let's back to the hustle and the grind of it. And, you know, the industry, it's so unpredictable that there's no stability in the industry. And so as an actor, you know, there's big act, you know, you just kind of keep going. And one day, it could just blow up like overnight success, but you do it forever. Or you do it for years. Like, no one sees what really goes on underneath all of it. Now, some people are lucky. They go their first audition, they book it, and that's beautiful. Yeah. Whatever your journey is what it is. Mine was obviously just what it was. And so, mind you, I moved out to LA when I was like 19, and now I'm 35, I guess, 35, 36. So I'm just continuing, and this is it for me. There has never been a plan B. There's always been the hustle of having jobs and surviving. You know, I've had some under the table jobs, I've had all the things, but this for me was like, this is my thing. So I'm going to do it until something. And I always knew something was going to happen. Like, I got to a point too where with all the work and everything, the spiritual work, I was like, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, whatever it is. My time will come, and it will be for me. Because you're on the right route. Yes. It's like if you're going towards what you want, you're going to get there. Yeah, exactly. It's just about. Everyone's timeline is different. And just like really, truly having this belief in myself that it's just like in my soul. And like, I was like, I just feel it in my soul. This is meant for me. I don't know what it is, but this is meant for me. And so we had to leave LA because the strike happened, basically no jobs. You know, we just had a child. We found black mold in the place that we were living in. My husband was having health issues. The guy was like, you need to leave now.
Absolutely.
So we packed everything up, and his grandmother left us a house in Texas, in Lufkin. So in the middle of nowhere, like 2 hours from
Night
Houston.
and day from LA.
Oh yeah, like 90 acres, cows.
Wow.
All his family lives around each other. There's no
Wow.
service. Even though there's internet, you really have no service. You go bird watching, you shoot guns, you blow shit up. For like, you know, it's great. It's great for what it is. Now, I'm a city girl. So imagine taking me there. I had a very difficult time. I love his family. I love it, but only for so long.
Absolutely.
So I was not in a good place. And also I'm in postpartum. And so my postpartum came later on. I had a home birth too. It was planned. And so, you know, I was very holistic in the way that I took care of just myself and everything. But also not that I'm not about medicine. You know what I mean? It's just the way that I took care of myself. And so go to Texas, and I'm not happy at all, to be honest with you. But my son is thriving. And Sean has his family, but then his cousin was tragically died in a car accident 2 weeks after we went there, and everything was great. God. And so then it caused just a really tough time in summer, and it was just like a lot of transitions. And he was like, well, what do I do? So he was like, do I do real estate? Because acting doesn't exist. So we're there and all the things. And 2 weeks before I get my audition for Days, and like, I'm going through a tough time. And, you know, I can cry now. Like I allow myself to feel my emotions. Before I'd be like, I got no tears. I got nothing. I'm good.
You mean like you can implement it into your acting?
Meaning, no.
Oh, okay.
Meaning, well, yes. Meaning I allow myself to feel when I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling like I want to cry. I will allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. I don't bottle it up the way I used to. I used to bottle it up, and that's not healthy because it's stagnant. It stays in there, and then you just carry this
that's what men go through, realistically.
Yeah, you carry it with
men
you.
are like that, where it's like, no feelings. So men have that bottled up forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, I understood the importance of allowing myself to feel things. And now the proper place and time. It's not like I'd be like, oh, I'm going to cry. Yeah. But like the shower for me was my place. And so, I was in the shower. And like, I wasn't crying all the time there, but like I was just sad. And I had a moment in the shower where I was just like, what do I want? What do I want in my life? Like, what do I want right now? And I was like, because I never actually checked in with myself to see what I wanted. I always just allowed life to take me where it did. And like, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, what do I want? It's the first time I ever actually sat with myself and checked in. And I was like, I want to be a working actor. I want to be respected. I don't want the fame. I don't want the fame that comes with it, because I've been friends with a lot of famous people, and that's not the life I want. I want to be respected. I want to be a great mother. I want to be happy. I just want to be happy, like I just want this for myself. But the career thing was something that I knew. And also my son was about to be 2. And so I was like, do I want to get back into or maybe he was 1.5. He wasn't 2 yet. I was like, do I want to get back into the industry? And I go, maybe next year when he's 3. And I cried. I let it go. And then 2 weeks later, I got the audition for Days of Our Lives.
Wow.
I haven't auditioned for Days since I was 22 for the role of Gabby. But when I got it, it wasn't Gabby. It was a different role. It was a different name. And so I thought, oh my God, great character description. And I was like, I knew the girl that had booked it had been doing it for 13 years, Camila. And she didn't book it initially. Another girl booked it. They fired her, and then they brought her in. So I just knew that she was the one that had gotten the role. Like, good for her. Great. So I thought it was to be her sister, because we kind of look alike, or to be cousin, something. And I was like, ooh, this is fun. I was like, I'll take this audition. Also, it's the writer's strike. How am I auditioning? Soap operas are not included in the writer's strike. They're different.
Really?
Yes, they have a different thing.
That makes sense, because it's ongoing. Especially soap opera.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
ongoing.
So
the writers are always working.
Yes, exactly. And so I took the audition. I did it. Great. Whatever. Again, just happy to audition. And also Days, I get a call back, and I'm like, oh, cool. I do the call back with the casting director, and it's through Zoom because I'm in Texas and I'm doing it. And she's like, all right, so do you know about soap operas? It's one rehearsal and it's one take. We do it in one take. I was like, yeah, I've heard. She was like, okay. So We go to do it. I fuck it up.
Oh.
And I'm like, huh, you know, like fuck it up. And I go, one take, Cherie. And I laugh at myself because, you know, like I got a
What
good
else you gonna
attitude.
do?
I was like, whatever. And she was like, it's okay. We can go again. I was like, okay, thank you. So we went again. She gave me some direction. She goes, great. She goes, okay, I'll keep in touch. I'll talk soon. And usually when somebody says that, you don't, you know, they could just be saying that.
That's Hollywood
Yeah,
talk.
no, yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. A week later, I find out I have a screen test, meaning that I'm going to go on set, work opposite of the actor, and do the scene in front of the cameras and everything.
But this is still audition.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
still an audition, but this is the final one. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is amazing, right? So I would have to move back to LA, but still, I'm not thinking I'm going to get it. What got me was when I got the contract. So with the screen test, they send you the contract because if you book it, you start right away kind of thing. And it said Gabby Hernandez. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach, and immediately I Googled because I was like, I didn't Google shit. I didn't know. You know, and the girl was leaving after 13 years. She didn't want to do the soap anymore. She wanted to start a family. She wanted to move on to other things, movies and other TV shows. And so she was leaving, and I was like, what are the chances? Like that really got me because I was like, Gabby. So then I called my agents and I was like, I auditioned for this role when I was 22, and they were like, I remember or I had just signed with those agents. That was one of my first auditions that I had with my agents that I have now. Because I remember, like, you know, I was just with them. And so I go to New York, and I go and I bring my family. You know, we go for 2 weeks. We stay with the godparents. The 1 week was just to kind of settle in and just kind of get going. And then the second week, I meet with the casting director through Zoom again. And she's like, all right, so this is how it's going to go down. This is the process. She was like, look, at the end of the day, you have to have chemistry with the actor. If it's meant for you, great. If it's not, you have NBC, you have Universal, you have Peacock watching you. So if you're not right for this, you could be right for something else. This is, no matter what, it's a win-win. This is great. So I'm like, okay. And so she's telling me too, you don't have enough fire. I need more fire from you, for this character's fiery and spicy. She doesn't give a fuck, and she's confident in this. And after becoming a mother and working through ayahuasca, I had let go of a lot of my anger.
Yeah, you're all at peace now.
I'm so peaceful. I'm so
Love
peaceful.
and
Love
peace and acceptance and forgiveness.
Like, I don't hold grudges. I don't have issues. I just don't fight. Like, I'm just not. And also, I have zero fucks. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Sure, whatever. Go right ahead. Knock your lights out. She was like, I need you to find the fucks to give. And so she goes, your homework this week before you come in Friday is to go back into your life and find where you gave a fuck and you had all this fire and you cared about stuff. And I was like, wow. So it was interesting. It was like a little bit of a ayahuasca ceremony for me, because I had to go back into just who I used to be, like elements of just who, not I used to be, but it's still there. It's always still there. And really just find that, because in the scene, my guy calls me the name of a different woman as he's kissing me. And then we get into a whole argument, blah, blah, blah. So I go and I find this little red dress. I go to the screen test. I'm screen testing against 5 other girls. One of them I know, because I know the Latinas in Hollywood, you know. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'm excited because I'm like, all right, whatever. This is so cool. And what's wild is that when I walked into the studio doors, the first flash that came into my mind was my ancestral divination, where she said, you have an open door of blessings. You just need to walk through it, but you can't walk through it until you work through this. I had been working through all of that for a minute. That door for me was the blessing. And I said to myself, because my son's godmother, she was like, so how do you feel? Do you want? And I was like, do I want it? Do you want it? I go, yes, I want it. I go, but more than anything, I want to give it my all. I want to do my best, so that when I go back to that farm in Texas, I know that I put everything out there, and I can always know that I gave it my all and be proud of myself. At the end of the day, that's it.
Absolutely.
And so I did just that. And I gave it my all, and it was beautiful and it was incredible. And I walked away so proud of myself. And I was like, all right, fuck it, you know? And what's crazy is that in the show, the symbol of the DiMera family is the phoenix, because he died and came back and rose from the ashes. He's the greatest villain in TV history of a soap world. And my son's name is Phoenix. I named him Phoenix after the Firebird, you know, and just all of that, of what that means to me. So in the screen test, before the camera started, I looked over and I saw a phoenix statue, and I didn't know that was a symbol. So I thought, is that a phoenix? And they were like, action. in the scene. Do it. Like just like what the fuck? So when I booked it, I found out from my coworker, the guy that played my husband at the time. He was like, just so you know, your son's name. And so I booked it. I went back to I went back to Texas, and I got the call, and they were like, 2 days after I flew back, they were like, hey, so how'd it go? Because they knew, but they were like, how'd it go? And I was telling them, I'm so proud of myself. Thank you for this opportunity. No matter what happens, I know something amazing is coming. I just know it. I can just feel it. I know it. And my time will come. And they were like, okay, cool. They were like, so do you want to hear the feedback? And I was like, yeah. They were like, they said you did great. You hit everything. Your chemistry with the guy was amazing. They love you. They unanimously decided nobody else compared. You were it. No other girl compared. You were it. So
That's
I had
amazing.
spent my life being rejected and told that I wasn't it, or that the other girl was it. So many screen tests or so many auditions where it was between myself and another girl, and the other girl got it. And it was always like, it's her turn. It's her turn. It's her turn. For the first time, it was my turn. I cried hysterically. Of course, with gratitude, because I was like, oh my God, to be told that you're the one is such a wild feeling. And, I'm 36, 37. I don't even know how old, 36, 37. Like, this is what I've worked my whole life for. And not only is the role, I thought it was a little, like, I didn't know how big Gabby was. Gabby's huge role. This is a dream role. I love it. So we moved from Texas. We packed everything up in the car, and we left half the stuff there because, his grandmother and his dad and all that stuff. And I flew with Phoenix. Sean packed up what he could in the car. We lived out of my luggage for the first month while we looked for somewhere to live. And I went to work, and I started working on my dialogue. And it took me a minute because I'm a recast. Being a recast is really tough. I was met with a lot of resistance because people love the previous actress so much. And I get it. It's like you're watching something, you're used to somebody, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes in. You're 100%. Like, whoa.
You're so invested in that person.
Yeah,
and
I was just talking about it last night. I was like, that's like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the mom. All of a sudden she was replaced. Yeah. And I was like, no. What, 100%. What happened? What are you doing?
And they even looked similar.
No, not at all. You were like, this is not okay. So that was definitely tough for me. But when I started the show, also too, this character is confident and sexy, and she's a businesswoman, and she's smart. And there's so many amazing things about this character. I was in postpartum. I was frail. So I spent my whole life as an actor being ready, camera ready, perfect body, perfect hair, perfect everything. And all of a sudden I'm like, wearing swellies there, like not even, I don't feel confident straight up. And I booked this character, and I wear tight dress and all the things. And I'm like, oh my God. So the beautiful thing was they showed me patience, and I gave myself grace, and they were so wonderful. And they said, it's okay. You're the one. So
wow.
I started working out. I started weight training. I started taking care of my hair because, pregnancy changes your hair texture. I've always had beautiful bouncy hair, and all of a sudden it's like losing hair, and it's dry and flat, just like all the little things. And then also internally too, like I'm just like processing everything, because I'm like, okay, now it airs so far ahead that nobody would know for 6 months that I booked this role. So for 6 months, I got to work hard, and I got to focus on this character until the world knew. So it was a secret, and I loved it because it allowed for me to really focus on dropping my shoulders and settling in as Gabby, while also taking care of myself, Cherie, and so that was an interesting thing. But then I air, and the tough thing about it was that I've waited my whole life for something like this, but the fans were fucking mean. Like I'm not reading stuff. They're reaching out to me to tell me how much they hate me, how much they love the previous actress. And she left. She wanted to leave. It wasn't me. I just stepped in. And the producers and the actors were wonderful with me, but the fans were not. Now there were some, but a lot of them were not. And so while I'm airing, the first 3 months, I went into a depression. I'm supposed to be so excited on top of the world for this role, and meanwhile I'm being ripped apart every day by grown-ass women, and who knows who's sending me messages, and I'm just like, so I had to, because I'm older, so I don't know in the world, the internet world as much as I should. Like I do, but I don't. So I had like the younger kids on the show be like, how do I block or how do I turn off settings so that people don't have access to me? Because I have to have a public profile. Because I was like, can I make it private? They're like, no. I was like, that way nobody can. But I had to work through that. I cried a lot, and I really had to just remind myself that like I belong here and I'm here for a reason. And I remember one of the weeks that something was going on really intense, like for me, just outside of work, because I never brought it to work. No one ever knew what I was going through. One of the head producers said to me, Cherie, I just want to tell you, you have far exceeded our expectations. You have made Gabby your own, because they also changed the character. And so people were upset because the character was different than what it used to be. They made my character was reintroduced getting out of prison so like they introduced me a little bit more harsh, a little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more mean and so not so soft. So people are like, well, why is she not happy? Versus the previous one brought comedy to it. And she was Cuban, so she had a different Latin flair than I do. And so for me, what I realized too was that I was there to change the narrative of what people thought a Latina was supposed to be, because people were like, she's not even Spanish and this and that, because I don't move like the other one. I'm not like, I don't do this. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's so many different flavors of Latina women, and I don't think people are used to someone who's more.
As television has their mindset of what.
Yes,
what
exactly, and
Latin
I
is.
wasn't that.
Yeah,
I was different, and so for me, I viewed it as a strength and as a beautiful thing, because not only do I get to represent, which is such a beautiful thing for me, and they let me add Spanish in over time because Spanish is my first language. But they expanded the Hernandez family. We're the only Latin family on daytime television, and now there's Latin characters in other soaps, but we're like a full family. I have my brother, I have my 18-year-old daughter. So my character had a baby when she was 16. So I'm 38, but I look young. Yeah. So it's funny because they were like, Cherie, we just can't age you. But I'm very mature. I carry myself a certain way, and the daughter carried herself a certain way. So I have a cousin. So they started expanding my family, which is a beautiful thing in the Latin in the soap world and Latin. So for me, the representation alone was such a beautiful thing. I was doing it as Jimenez. I was given the role that wasn't meant for me at 22 was meant for me when I was older. It came back around, and it's a dream role. I love Gabby. I've made her my own. I have so much fun. I get to do what I love. I don't ever want to leave. And it's crazy because with the soap, the show has been on 60 years. We celebrate 60 years on November 8th, which is insane. Yes, insane. Amazing. Just wow, I can't believe this is real life. And I get to play. I get to grow every day. I become a better actor. I learn so much. I'm constantly evolving, constantly learning. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I was scared too when I first booked it. I was like, oh my God, one take. What if I fuck up? They're going to be like, that's it. Out,
But
instead, the other people there were or like not fucking up, but they drop a line and they'd be like, hey, what's my line? And I was like, oh, I realized just what a beautiful family. Everyone's wonderful. The producers, the directors, the actors, there's no ego. It's truly I stepped into, it was like the universe was like, okay, let me surround you with just beautiful people and beautiful souls that just care about the work and love to be here and love to play. And within the industry, the soap world is looked at a little bit less than, for whatever reason. No, we work so hard. We do anywhere from 20 to 60 pages a day. I do anywhere from 1 to 3 episodes a day. It just depends. Wow. Yeah, we show up and it starts at 8:45 every single day. You go out, you do your thing, you mess up, it's okay, go again. You need a line, you do your thing, and then you move on. You do rehearsal, you move on, and then before you know it, you're out. So I get to be present and be a mother. And during lunch breaks, I get to go play at the park with my son. If I need to take my son to school, they'll rearrange my episodes in the morning.
Wow.
It's the best job I could have ever asked for, and it's a dream role. So I get to do what I love, and now it's going to be 2 years on December 4th or December 8th that I've been on the show.
Amazing.
And Gabby is just the
thriving.
Best. She's the best character ever. My wardrobe is amazing. My makeup, my character storylines are great. I'm just given so much as an actor that you could only dream of, that I just, like I said, I continue to evolve and I continue to grow, and I just love it.
That's incredible.
So yeah, it's great.
My God, I never knew that was a thing where a character would just be replaced, like the actor would change, but the character stays.
The character stays,
That's very
And so
interesting.
there's a lot of recasts within the soap world, and a lot of other actors, even before I aired, they warned me about this. They said, just so you know, it's going to be a little intense. The fans could be crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I was like, I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm a mom.
How long did that
like,
last?
my life is full. You know, like, I'm good. Like, I'm sure. I didn't realize how intense it was going to be until you're experiencing it. And it was tough. But, you know, the beautiful thing was that
the diehard fans.
I did a couple of interviews, but I did this one with Women's World magazine. And they asked me about it because all the soap sites knew about what was happening. Just because it was very evident, like how much hate I was getting. Even one of the soap sites was like, wrote about it and was like, she's doing amazing. You guys need to remember this is how it works. This is the soap world, you know, recast. But like, it just is what it is. You know, you can't stop. And I spoke out about it for the first time. Because before that, I'd be like, yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of hate, but I'm doing my best. And for the first time, I was like, you know what? No, fuck it. I am going to talk about it. I go, I've been bullied and that's not okay. And I was like, and it's tough. And I cried. And I decided to be open, you know, because I was like, and it sucks. And I go, but you know what? I had to go through that to get through the other side and remind myself and change the narrative. There are people that are supporting me. The producers and the actors, everyone, my family, my friends. This is meant for me. I'm here for a reason. There's no reason that this came around all these years later back into my life if this wasn't meant for me. So I'm sorry. I hope over time you do fall in love with my interpretation. And if not, that's okay too. I understand how it goes. You love her. And I have spoken very highly of her and have nothing but respect for her because that was her baby. And I've stepped into her shoes, but now they're my shoes. And also like she moved on. And so it's just a weird thing being pitted against another woman too. I'm a girl's girl all day. So to be pitted against another female was a sucky thing too. Cause I was like, damn, this industry's cutthroat. Because I'd be like, so is there drama? Is there hate? Is there war? And I'm like, no, there's not. And then they
but it's
weren't
the fans more, right? It's the fans. So it's not even people like that matter in a sense of like you know, like it's people in the industry.
It's not.
It's
but like coming into that world, I didn't know what to expect or what was happening. And so I'm gonna hold on one second.
Yeah, no problem.
And so I basically just, like I said, I changed the narrative and now I'm in a really good place and I have fans that love me and love my interpretation. Also too, it's like I just bring a different element to it. So I'm Gabby. You know? Yeah. But also I'm nothing like Gabby because people that will meet me, you know, like I did a fan event, they were like, you're so nice. I thought you were stuck up and bitchy. They were like, you play a really good bitch. I was like, thank you so much. I was like, I'm not though. I'm not. I just had to dive in deep. You know, anytime I'm like a little too nice in my character, because the way it works is you'll hear them over the loudspeaker. You know, the director, Cherie, remember, Gabby will cut somebody. Gabby will kill. Stop being so nice. And I'm like, you're right. Noted. Cherie was coming out. So I just have to like switch it a little bit, you know?
Yeah,
and then
Gabby been to prison.
Gabby's been to prison 3 times.
3 times?
3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, so my character is hardcore.
That's wild.
I love her. And she's got an empire, a clothing line, a fashion line, just everything. Yeah.
Gabby's a beast.
Yeah, the writers do such an incredible job. And like I said, we're about to celebrate the Emmys, which was wild. You know, I just recently presented at the Daytime Emmys. You know, like I said, I've only been on the show for so long and I didn't realize how big of a character Gabby was and how much she has evolved too since I've been in the character. They've just continued to really just make me one of the, you know, like the Hernandez family is now a staple family within the Days of Our Lives world. And that's a beautiful thing because it used to just be a certain number of families. And so I'm grateful for that. But I got asked to present. And at first I was like, what? I was like, what? No. And she was like, what do you mean no? And I was like, me? And I was like, why not? And she was like, no. She was like, I want you to present. And I was like, okay. She was like, do you not want to? And I go, no. I was like, I didn't. Okay. I was like, yeah. And I was like, are they going to accept me? You know, like I didn't understand. And she was like, yeah, no, well, you know. And so they did. And so she basically only, 3 of us, because Deidre Hall, who's been on the show forever, she's an icon and a legend in the soap world. She presented for the Lifetime Achievement Award for one of the women, and myself and another actor represented Days of Our Lives. Wow. So that in itself was, once it started to get closer to it, started to get nervous, and I started to understand the gravity of it. And I was like, oh my God, like it's my first Emmys, my first Emmys and I'm presenting. So I don't get to just do the red carpet and sit back and have a drink if I want or something and just like watch everybody. I'm going to be on stage. So the day before the Emmys, we did a rehearsal and I found out that I was presenting with Joseph Rosendo. He's a travel host for PBS. Joseph Rosendo's stepping out. Wonderful man. And he's Cuban. So he speaks Spanish and I speak Spanish. So they gave us Spanish dialogue because to like represent for like the Latinos. And so I was excited because for me, my abuela gets to watch this and I get to make my family proud and also beautiful. But the publicist was like, hold on, but do you know how to speak Spanish like that? Because you know, they and I was like, no, it's my first language. Yes, I do actually. And she was like, okay, you know, like, cause they could just assume, and I could be a Spanish person that doesn't speak Spanish. It happens. So, the teleprompter, huge letters. So I was like, okay, we're good, you know, but they kept changing my dialogue every couple of days. So by the time we got to the actual day of doing it, my dialogue, I got it the night before at 1 a.m. because I had memorized it so that I could be free on stage and still look at it if I needed it, but like be more not such a robot, like, what's my line?
Absolutely.
You know, and then at that point I was like, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's all good. So yeah, I it's crazy. Right before I stepped on stage, you know, just being there in the dress and everything and just feeling so beautiful and confident and so grateful to be with my family, you know, like the days of our lives family and to represent, like what an honor. And also don't fuck this up, Cherie, because this is the daytime Emmys. This is live. Like
no retakes.
There are no retakes. There is no one take moving. Yeah, it's just, yeah. And so right before I stepped on, I got like my body went into this like crazy nervous, like it started shaking a little bit. And there's something that I do before a scene when I am acting on the show. Right before any scene, I center myself by taking a deep breath. It allows me to be present and let go. You know, I put in all the work on my dialogue. It's a lot of work so that I can be free and play. And so I decided to use that, except this one, I took 3 deep breaths because I was shaking a little bit. Yeah. And Joseph, you know, my presenting partner was like, you're okay. And I was like, I need to breathe. And he was like, breathe. And I took my 3 deep breaths and everything settled and I walked out and I did my thing and it was just so beautiful and I was so honored. And when I walked off, we gave each other a hug and I was like, wow. And never in my life did I think that, first of all, I would be going to the Emmys, number one, but to represent the show, to be the female chosen to represent the show and to represent the Latinos and also our little bit that they wrote for us, we personalized it and made it our own too. It was so wonderful. Like, wow. I love what they wrote for us. And so afterwards, everybody was like, Cherie, that was amazing. And I was just so proud of myself. And you know, I'm just holding so much gratitude for that and for everything else that's to come. I mean, this journey on Days for me is just beginning, you know, so I'm excited to see, like I said, the 60th anniversary, we took a huge cast photo that's going to be coming out in a big magazine. I can't say what it is because they have to announce it. So that's coming out in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see that. And we get to be highlighted as the Hernandez family. And so I've been on a 6-week hiatus, which never happens. So it started September 19th, which is why I'm home for so long. Because usually I get 1 week off a month. It goes all year round and you shoot for 3 weeks and then 1 week off. 3 weeks, 1 week off. And then you get 3 weeks in June. But they gave us 6 weeks to just be with our families and to just go be.
Nice.
And so I go back November 3rd. I got the script and I was like, I'm not going to look at that until I'm flying back. And I'm just going to enjoy family and friends.
That's amazing. I was wondering why you were here. I don't know if you had like a show
I was going
to
to come
or
home
something.
for Thanksgiving, but that's only 4 or 5 days that I get to come home. And this, with being the end of my hiatus, I was like, I get to come home for like 9-10 days and spend time because, you know, my abuela is getting old. I have my brother, my mom. It's like every time I come to New York, it's literally like making time, like who can I see? And I don't get to see everybody. Yeah. So this time around, I'm like, I saw my girlfriends, you know, I get to spend time with my brother. I'm taking my brother out today with his girlfriend to meet his girlfriend. Well, I've met her, but to get to know her.
Okay, nice.
So, you know, just all the things. Yeah.
I saw you on his Twitch or something like that.
Yeah. Funny enough, I don't really know anything about Twitch except for things I've seen, but he does Twitch. And he was like, can you be on my Twitch? I was like, yeah, what is it? And he was like, it's just live. People ask questions. And it was so fun. Yeah, it was chill.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to just hang out and talk, and people asked us questions like, what's your favorite movie? And like, you know, asking me about acting, but like getting to know me. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Yeah. So that was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
You know what's amazing about this story is people see where you are now and they'll say, wow, you're lucky. Wow, how'd you get that role? How can I do that? But it took your whole life to get this role, if you think about it. Being prepared for when that moment arises.
Truly. It's like all the rejection, all the work, especially all the work that you put into it. Like booking this for me, it's not about luck. It's about all of like everything I've put in to just who I am as a woman, who I am as an actor, as a mother. All the things have led me to a place where, like you said, it's like when I was 22, if this came into my life when I was 22, it's not to say that I wouldn't have been ready, because obviously it would have been meant for me and I would have had no choice to be ready. But to see the amount of work that goes into this role specifically, especially being on a soap, is unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. I'm ready. Like, yes, let's lock in. Like, it's the hardest I have ever worked. Like, I come home from set and I put my work away and I'm present with my son and I play with my son. I don't look at anything at all. Then when he goes to bed, I spend a little time with my husband, and then I go into the room and I lock in for 2 hours. And I take my breaks. Like my little breaks are, I'll go on Instagram and I'll watch funny videos because I have to laugh. That's like
I see that.
I gotta laugh, you know? And then I listen to classical music when I memorize. And then, you know, I just like, and then it gets to a point where I've fallen asleep with my dialogue. And I always have a moment where I have to go put myself to sleep like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, because I don't have the same luxury that some other actors on my show have, where they get to come home, work on it, make some dinner, have a glass of wine, work on it some more, and in bed by 10. I don't get to work on it until 10:30.
Yeah.
So I'm up until 1, 2, and it's just like, I have to. That's just how it has to be. So that, and then I just trust that it'll be there. You know, like it literally is trust. Like, but I have created a neural pathway since working on the show with memorization, that my memorization is unbelievable.
Perfect.
You know, so it's great. It's great for, like, you know, like I love it. I can't complain. And then when I get to work too, hair, makeup, wardrobe, the actor I'm working opposite of, or the actors, we get to run it until we feel comfortable.
Nice.
And then they call it, so no matter what. Yeah, and then we all play. And it's fun. Salem is the town in Days of Our Lives. It's wild. The characters are crazy. There's some off the wall shit that goes down. There's kidnappings. There's death. People come back to life. People are frozen. This person has this person's heart. You know, like it's kind of a little supernatural, where I'm like, shit is going down, but I love it.
Perfect.
I'm like, in what other world do I get to do this? So, you know, it's great.
Wow. Thank you very much for the conversation. Being so transparent, so open. An amazing story. Really an amazing story.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
It has been amazing. Yeah. Safe travels back home.
Thank you.
I hope all the best.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody that watched. Peace and love.